policy discussion.
2-25.
I'm looking under the consent agenda. Tab what?
G.
Tab G, okay. So moving both of them up, or just the mandatory advising? Okay.
Just mandatory advising, please.
Okay. So moving that up after public comment. And then Henry was requesting moving letter what? E? B. B?
Yes, tab F, letter B.
Tab F, letter B. Moving, let's move that up to right after the president's report. Okay?
Thank you.
That's the automotive, whatever that is.
Now would you say?
Yeah. Okay, could we have a motion with those two changes?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, do we have any public comment? Okay. All right, then let's go with the mandatory advising.
Good evening, Dr. Rowley, Chair Siegel, members of the board. Policy 225 mandatory advising is before the board for policy review. Are we going to bring it up?
Yes.
Okay.
Marshall's working on it.
Okay. Thank you, Marshall.
It's here.
Now,
This,
okay, where is it?
It's on 5.2 in our work session.
5.2.
The very front. It's behind the very first tab that says work session.
No?
We're just behind the regular meeting schedule. Or in front of.
Oh, it's at the very front. Right in the very front. Okay. Okay, go.
this policy is currently under review due to the timeline. Every 5 years, a policy has to be reviewed. Let me just give a general overview. Mandatory academic advising is right now for first-time, full-time new students to Sfcc. We removed a bit of language from this policy that we'll find under the scope and applicability. Move to that piece. Oh, my apologies. I'm Tammy. For those of you who don't know me, I am the Director of Academic Advising in the first year experience. My apologies. Are we there? Great. So right now what we're trying to do with the review of this policy is to really just look at the policy and make sure that it's accurate with our current practices. We removed a bit of language with the this policy requires advising for and applies to all new degree-seeking students. What we removed is with 15 or fewer completed cumulative credits. The reason we removed that is because our systems are currently not set up to track that. So it's just not accurate. It's really important to just be very transparent and consistent with what our practices are and what our policies read. Now, mandatory advising is something that we have a vision to expand. We want to expand it beyond the first semester. This is where we're at right now, but we have a vision to expand it into future terms.
On that point, so even part-time degree-seeking students would have mandatory advising?
No, actually it's full-time. What triggers the hold is how a student answers questions on the new student application.
But you took out full-time in the
Did-
scope and
Did we take out?
applicability.
So the full-time degree seeking. Yeah, the full-time degree seeking students, that's, my apologies.
So it should still be here?
So then it shouldn't say, okay, am I looking at the right one? New, okay, all right, it is correct, my apologies. So
What is correct?
what you see on there, because it was full-time.
Off full-time.
Right, so now it's going to be applicable to everyone
Good.
that was part of the evolution of this, so this is actually good.
Right.
And we want the new students to the college because we want them to be able to meet with an advisor, and including transfer students, because they're still new to us. And they're still new to our systems, our programs, what we have to offer, our services, our wraparound services. And we want to give them that orientation and make sure that they have all the information that they need to be successful students. Okay. If we scroll down through the policy statement, if we want to take a look at that. Sure.
If, if a student indicates on their form that they're a degree seeking, but they're not taking 12 hours, or they're not planning to take 12 hours, then they would still come under this policy for
Yes, they will now, yes.
for academic advising.
Yes.
And how you know that is what you just said, is because of the way they fill out the information form.
Yes. Yes, so they identify themselves as a new student to the college, then that triggers the hold.
Now, what if they don't say on that point what kind of degree they want? They just know they want to get a degree. That's okay? Anything else, Jack?
Good evening, and thank you so much for these wonderful questions. Chair Siegel, Member Sullivan, that's a wonderful question because what we're trying to do is really incorporate a strong relationship between all of our new students with our academic advisors on campus. And one of the ways that we've identified to be able to do this is by having all students, regardless of the number of credits that they're coming or wanting to take, is if they have a desire to complete a degree, and that also includes certificate. And what we're going to do is align them with any advisor who is assigned to those particular areas. And if we haven't selected a major, if they don't really know what they want to do, we have advisors who can help them with that process as well. So to answer your question directly, even if they're not too sure yet, we have advisors to really help and engage them and tools that they can use that are available on campus for them.
Now, are these advisors the ones in the Welcoming Center, or are these the advisors in the individual departments?
Thank you for that question, Member Sullivan. These are advisors throughout our college campus, and that includes faculty advisors, professional advisors that are stationed in the academic units, as well as our academic advisors in the Welcome and Advisement Center.
And so if I'm a new student and I am thinking about getting some kind of a degree, where will I end up?
That's a great question because
These are all wonderful questions.
they come to campus. No, and these are really what we're trying to answer for all of our students who are coming to campus. And Member Sullivan, what happens is that most times when they get to campus, they walk in through those beautiful front doors and walk down the hallway, and someone says, go to the Welcome and Advisement Center. Once they get there, they are welcomed into our area, they sign in, and then we decide at that time who they need to see. If I sign in and I say I'm interested in business, then we have the academic advisor come from the business department to get the student and take them to the business office, to the business area, school of business area. If they are undecided at that moment, we have advisors right there at that time who welcome them in, work with them, engage with them. If they decide or declare a major at that time, there's a nice warm handoff to that professional advisor within the schools.
And at that point, are these always advisors, or are the students sent to a faculty member?
There's a mix to that, Member Sullivan and Chair Siegel. What happens is it depends on who's available at that time. Sometimes our faculty advisors are not available at that moment. They are not assigned to, our students are not assigned to any specific academic advisor, which is something we are working on for this next year to actually do assignments per program. And what happens is if the faculty advisor is not available, there is a professional advisor within the school who they can work with. So there are times that they can work with a faculty advisor, and there are times that they work with a professional advisor. If at that time the professional advisor sees an opportunity for a student to work with the faculty advisor, if there's a level of expertise that is needed, something more so along the lines of career-based knowledge or other opportunities, our professional advisor will work with the faculty advisor and either do the warm handoff at that time or schedule an appointment for the faculty advisor and the student to follow up with that conversation.
Now, when you say, excuse me, faculty advisor, do you mean just a faculty member who is helping that student out, or do you mean the one advisor that's assigned to each department?
It's a faculty advisor who can be helping them out at that time within their school. Yes.
That's
Faculty member.
But that's an advisor that meets with you periodically with the other advisors?
Yes, sir, it can be, Member Sullivan. And I say that because we don't have an assignment just yet of faculty advisors to our students who are coming in, but that is a system issue that we're working with right now through Banner that we are developing, and we're working with the academic deans and the assistant deans, associate deans, to really develop that systematic process within the schools. So at this moment, Member Sullivan, what's happening is as a faculty member is available and is working with our students, they can become their faculty advisor.
Okay, but maybe I'm misinformed, but do we not have one full-time advisor assigned to each department of the college?
Member Sullivan, we do, and those are professional staff advisors.
Right, so they report to you, to your department?
Yes.
Right. So if that professional advisor, as you call them, is not available, let's say they're on sick leave or vacation or whatever, then where does that potential student go?
And that can happen, Member Sullivan, and Tammy has done a great job with working with the advisors as we know that they will be out. Tammy works with the academic deans to make other arrangements. If we have somebody who might be coming in to meet in any one of the academic areas, between the academic deans and Tammy, or associate deans and Tammy, they have identified individuals who may be available at that time. We also have cross-training with our academic advisors, professional advisors who can also offer assistance to students. So no one student is ever turned away for advisement services.
If I can add to that, our professional advisors work really closely with the faculty advisors, and when there are referrals from our professional advisors to faculty advisors, it's often, it varies, but it's oftentimes for specific needs within that particular department, or for more from mentorship type of advising. So we're in conversation, and no student is ever just turned away. I mean, we have advisors that are all set up, and we have a system that's set up so that we're tracking notes and we're able to systemically be able to have enough information to be able to serve that student.
Well, then my last question was, you have, I believe, or maybe it's in progress, an advising software program that you follow, as a protocol that you follow as you is that correct, or is that in place?
Yes, well, right now we do have a system, an internal system that was built in-house called Advance. All of our advisors, the faculty advisors also have access, so they have read and write permissions, and so do the professional advisors, so it completes the conversation.
So when, again, this situation where a prospective student comes in but a professional advisor is not available, goes to a faculty member or a dean or whoever you determine, are they trained, and do they know how to use Advance?
They have, yes, it's even, well, it's written, we have written instructions. It's a very intuitive. It's very simple. I mean, it's a number, like maybe 3 or 4 steps to get into advance. Once you log into your portal, it's already in your portal if you have access. And yes, I've provided written instructions how to do that, and several of them are, do use it.
Okay, then, after I've gone through the advance questions and discussed my career goals with the advisor or the faculty, then what happens? How do I get the hold taken off so I can start classes?
The advisor manually removes the hold from the student database.
And it could be, the faculty can do that also?
Faculty can do that as well.
I see. Thank you.
Welcome.
I think I have 2 questions. It seems that you have in place a system that is more or less satisfactory for new students when they come in. I have 2 concerns. One, after that initial advising period, what happens? Presumably, the purpose of advising is to facilitate the students navigating through the system and graduating. But obviously, that happens at more than one point in the student's time. Student comes in, has a great advising experience, and then what?
Thank you for that question. We tell them to come back. Yes, and we highly encourage them. It's mandatory for students to meet with an academic advisor their first term. But after that, they're encouraged to meet with an advisor at least once a semester because things change. Programs can change, prerequisites can change. We let them know. And we like to take that full picture of, where are they with the whole plan. The first advising session actually has documented area criteria that we cover, and it includes things like financial aid, college resources, the program of their interest, what those requirements are, and students change their minds as well. A lot of times in that initial advising session, students are referred for career exploration, and that might change what their academic course is. So we want them to come back. We advertise, we outreach to students. We are beginning a case management model. Some of our advisors embedded in our academic schools are already doing a lot of that. We're expanding it throughout the department. We're formalizing it. We're building it into our systems. And we're creating that ongoing relationship with students throughout their experience, because you're right, it doesn't happen just that first semester. Right. It's an entire experience.
And is there consideration of mandating it as well? Since you mandate the initial contact, is there consideration of mandating other contacts during their time here?
Yes, we're looking at expanding the mandatory advising. How and how far into their student experience is still in discussion, because we want it to be an asset and not a barrier, and it can be for some. So we're still reviewing that and discussing it, but the more that we can be in contact with the students and keep them on a good plan, that's great.
The other, sorry.
If I may also add, Chair Siegel, Member Gamble, thank you so much for that question, because what we're doing now, and Tammy is really taking the opportunity to use our data points. Our retention is really good, and we want it better. And what we're doing is not only looking at our current student population, but what have been the trends that have really helped students be where they're at. And this is all components, as you all may know, of true academic advising. And as Tammy mentioned, we have started a number of initiatives this particular semester for outreach efforts that are going through case management styles. So same person contacting the same students with very similar messages. And we've also incorporated career counseling into that, which includes specific job outreach to specific degree plans and programs. And also tied to that are many other facets of academic advising that we're excited that we're now really truly collaborating with, and we're able to enrich this advisement experience for our students. and everyone who is really working with the student has an opportunity to incorporate their message through the advanced system we were just speaking about, so everyone understands that plan or that path for that student. So it's very unique to the individual student, but it's also very systematic and something that we're being very consistent with right now, and we're looking at long-term how more so we can get in depth and more in touch, attuned, if you will, with our students through these processes.
If I may add, there are a number of outreach efforts to different groups of students. You know, a large portion of our new students are proactively outreach to at midterms. You know, we try to look at their midterm grades and say, you did a great job. Is there anything else that you need? Or is there something that we can help you with? We see this as an area of concern, so we're trying to go to them. And our advisors are very proactive in the academic schools with sharing information, scholarship information that's specific to their particular majors, or you know, just opportunities that are available to those particular groups of students.
My second question has to do with the guidance or training that faculty and or these professional, what you've referred to as professional advisors, to what extent are they all trained? Do they have the same guidance? Is that guidance helpful? Do they need other training? If you would just talk a little about how do they know what to do?
Okay, I'll start with the professional academic advisors. By way of the requirements of the position, our advisors come in actually experienced in student services, and they come in with we have high degree requirements, and we have what I call like a peer training model, where I have an assigned training advisor, and the advisor shadows all of the academic advisors and all of the related advising areas around the college, so that way they get that good experience. So it's a model where we have a set training that we go through, where, you know, AccuPlacer score reports and the catalog and the prerequisites and the sequencing and all of the things that come into play, because there's so many things that are involved in academic advising. So gathering all the tools, because it's really important for an advisor to know how to use their tools. Training on the electronic tools that we have available, banner training, advanced training, you know, just different, we have to know how to use our tools in order to be able to do our job the best that we can. As far as faculty advisors go, the training is within the department. But what I can say is that the faculty advisors advise for their particular programs, so they have thorough knowledge of their programs.
Chair Siegel and Member Gamble, it's a great opportunity for us to come together and really establish that continuity between the school's advisement and the professional advisors. And I think this is something that faculty through the deans, associate deans, and our team through the academic advisement team are more than looking forward to developing and establishing these guidelines that you were speaking about, the training methodologies, and just making sure that we're all on understanding all the tools available to us as we meet with all of our students. So it is something definitely that we've been considering and looking at developing within this next year.
I must say that it sounds like what you're doing and what you're planning to do sounds wonderful. Part of the reason that I raise the question now is if we in the near future develop a mentoring program, it would seem that so much of your knowledge and your experience would be so helpful in thinking about mentoring, which moves beyond academic advising as defined pretty narrowly and moves to the whole life of the student, and indeed a real case management model, just sort of raising this and to put in your minds the thought that we may have that in the very near future. We certainly have been talking about it when we were talking about College Promise, because the research that we have seen around the country is as schools get new students in who are first-generation students and have very little prior exposure or experience with education, they just bloom readily with mentoring, and in places where they don't have mentoring, they don't do very well.
Chair Siegel, Member Gamble, I think that's a personal experience for many of us, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I believe that we are starting a great process to establish those opportunities in the future. It's something that we've been thinking about throughout the entire Student Affairs Division. It's something that we've been talking about with students, and I think it's something that is possible. And I think that with the leadership that we have, the support that we have, it is something that we're looking forward to establishing.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Chair. Another question. How many professional advisors do we have?
We have 8 professional advisors and full-time and 2 seasonal.
Okay. And so we have, what, 6 academic schools? Is that right?
5.
5? Okay, so 5 are assigned to the academic schools and 3 are in the Welcoming and Advising Center?
Correct.
Okay. So once they've gone through the first effort with using the advance tool to assist them in their goal setting and understanding the college procedures, then during their time as a student, and explain to me if this is not right, the faculty then makes periodic updates on their progress through the DegreeWorks software. Is that correct?
We currently don't have DegreeWorks as of yet.
Okay, so how does the faculty, but we're going to get DegreeWorks, is that right?
I believe so, through Title V or a like tool.
Okay, so then my question is, and I thought DegreeWorks would handle it, but I guess it doesn't. How are the faculty's progress evaluations communicated to you as an advisor?
They have access to the advanced system, so that's
do it through the advanced.
Yes.
So they say Jack is failing English, and we've got to do something about it.
Yes, we have that system. We have the instructor-initiated early alert, which comes through me, and then I assign it to an advisor, and the advisor has a short time period to contact the student and then report back to the instructor.
And is that a part of Advance, or that's a different software?
It's separate. Well, it's not a software. It's a process, but it goes through. Actually, it does go through a software, Maxient, and then it comes through me. But the process closes through me assigning it to an academic advisor, the academic advisor outreaching to the student, and then the advisor contacting the instructor to let them know what happens. So that way everybody's in the conversation.
And so how often does a faculty member do this? Does he or she do it when they see a student is struggling or failing, or is it done every quarter, or what?
The instructor can do it at any time. They can initiate it at any time. However, on our end, we're outreaching to students that we identify as potentially needing some additional support.
But you wouldn't know what their grade is and what my grade is in English until I finish the course and I get a bad grade, right?
Unless the instructor lets us know.
So the instructor has to.
At midterms.
Yeah, or midterms. Oh, you get the midterms too?
Well, we have access to the midterm grades, and so for the students in this particular group, for the majority of them, they are being case managed. So one of our points of contact is at midterm time. So then our advisors are able to look to see where they stand academically and be able to outreach to that student.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Chair? Yes. Sorry.
Clearly, we are really interested in.
We are really interested.
Much beyond the rules, so.
Good policy.
So, I understand what we're doing here, and I understand it's probably a best practice across the country that we want to engage students in. We see much higher levels of success when we get them in to see an advisor. My concern about this policy is it feels very punitive to me. And it feels like to me we're putting roadblocks in the place of students getting in classes and feeling welcome here. So, come. Oh, wait. You got to get a number. Okay, now that you got your number, now you need to go down the hall and take the test. Wait, you still can't take it. You've got to come back to this campus and find an advisor and meet with them before you can go. It feels like to me there is a little bit of a punitive, no, you can't go. No, we really want you here, but then you have to come here and do these 15 things. And I know that you work with our students every day, but our students are working full time. So what does that mean? Them coming to the campus and finding an advisor 2 hours out of their day that they're not getting paid for and may not be able to feed their children. So they're having to make a choice of, am I giving up 2 hours of paid time at work because I can't get into that class until I drive out there and somebody finds an advisor for me and they walk over from a class and then get me enrolled? I know our intentions are really good and they're the right thing. What I'm concerned about is when we talk about, are we putting supports in place? I hear you saying we're working on that. We're really quick to put the punitive policy in place that they can't start in the class and they've got to hold on their records until they come in and do what we want them to do. But it seems like we may be a little bit slower at providing them the actual supports to make them successful in this process. And I would kind of like to see it flipped. I would like to see us put those supports in place first and make sure that we're serving students and that we're getting them in class and we want them to be here and be successful and follow up with them once they get here to make sure that they're being successful or figuring out some way to get them on Skype so that we're not requiring them to come out to the college and jump through another hoop before they can start their first day of class without a big hold hanging over their head.
Chair Sinkle, Member Keith, I totally appreciate your energy for considering our students who may be post-traditional, may be working, may be wearing many, many hats. What we have done to really help our students with that is our first initial outreach to our students when they're first admitted to the colleges. We send them a wonderful letter that definitely shares with them, this is who you are at Sfcc, this is how much we care for you, and we definitely would like for you to come in and visit with your academic advisor. If you cannot, we provide information for our students to outreach through an email, an advisement email that we have available, as well as a telephone. Our academic advisors are trained thoroughly on communicating with these individuals via email, through the telephone, and working with them through that process. So we've thought about that thoroughly. We do not want to create barriers for any of our students. So we are using technology as our friend, and through that we're making sure that we can release these what we call holds or registration holds for them, just with a click of a button over the telephone as we need to for our students, or via email as we need to for our students. And then students can register online with the help of an academic advisor. They do not have to be in person with someone to register for these classes the first time. It is a matter of guidance, it's a matter of support, it's a matter of connection. That's what we're doing initially. And then we're using, as I mentioned, all of our technology to our betterment and to that of our students as well. So the first time around, our advisors are really understanding of the students' needs and definitely want to meet them where they're at that moment.
And what value is there in putting a hold on their record or on their registration process? I just, our goal here is to get them registered, and we want them to be here, and I know that we want them to be successful, and you guys are working really hard at that, but it feels to me like we're putting yet another barrier up. by putting a hold on their registration process. We really want you to be here, but wait, you got to do this first.
Member Keith, our goal is to make sure that our students are enrolled in the right classes at the level that is appropriate for them. So the hold is not punitive. It's to make sure that we're guiding them in the right pathway for successful completion. The last thing that we want to do is have a student accidentally register for a class that is not where they're at that moment, not be successful, then not be engaged to return. So the hold is more so for a guided pathway and that structural support, an initial invitation for them to come in and meet with us and the faculty advisors to make sure that they understand what their program requirements are and how this will carry them to the next level. So it definitely is a first really strong meeting with them to make sure that they're in the right classes.
So Kathy, I wonder if you look at the policy process, maybe the sequencing is wrong, but it seems to me that capital letter C maybe addresses some of your issue. Students will meet with students in person by phone or email or via online through platforms such as Skype and Zoom. And maybe that has to say something that all of that can prompt the release of the student hold. It's not explicit, and maybe it needs to be.
Okay, thank you for that suggestion. That's great. We already do provide advising and lift the holds through remote avenues. So
But
because we do understand.
But the policy needs to be explicit
Yes,
about that.
yes, agreed.
And I really appreciate those suggestions. I kind of think where I come from on this is that I would like to see our policy hold us as the college accountable rather than the student. So we are saying that as a college, we will reach out and advise you in the first 2 months, not student, it's up to you, and you can't go any further in our process until you come and to our advising center, but let's turn it the other way and hold ourselves accountable for that. That we're going to hunt that student down. We're going to make sure if they've been in class for 4 weeks that we're calling them, that we've Skyped them, that we've Zoomed them, and that's our requirement, and we're assuring we do that for every student rather than saying to the student, no, you can't go any farther until you come and do this.
Right. The challenge with that, and thank you for that, I really appreciate your thought on that, but there are so many things that become what the student didn't know in that advising meeting, because we're reviewing Accuplacer scores, ACT scores, SAT scores, advanced placement, CLEP scores. We're reviewing any classes they may have taken in dual credit. We're transfer credit evaluation. Are they planning to transfer to a university? Is the course that their courses that they're taking applicable to their transfer plan? There are so many things that as advisors, our job is to ask the questions that the students don't know to ask. And that's my concern with that, and not that we can't discuss that further, but that's the whole purpose of the initial advising meeting, is to ask all of those questions and make sure that we get the students started in a way where we can see the end from the beginning. But if we don't know that from the beginning, then we can't really chart that path for them.
It seems like your rationale makes so much sense. Absolutely. And Kathy's points are good because we're always looking, and I know you are as well, for barriers and how can we eliminate the barriers. And while words are not, don't change everything, using the word hold rather than some other term might be worth considering. So instead of saying there's a hold, it may, I don't know, a welcoming, I don't know, you can play with those words, but it, again, I understand and agree with your rationale. I think Kathy's point is an excellent point. We're always concerned about, what kind of barriers are we putting up? And maybe just, reframing, rewording something could help a little bit.
Thank you, Member Gamble and Chair Siegel and Member Keith. We agree with you, and that's something that we have definitely been looking at. And while perhaps the initial outreach, this is what we're trying to do through this particular policy, but our actions thereafter, which are not outlined thoroughly here, is a lot of what we've been doing this term. We have been making outreach calls to students within the first week if we see that perhaps they're at risk. We are taking that initiative to make sure that we talk to them about fiscal responsibility, financial literacy, helping them with that process, helping them with completing their scholarship application, all of these things, and there are many, many more. We didn't outline it here, but we knew that that first initial contact with the student is critical. Then thereafter, your first 2 weeks, studies show it's the most critical time for any student, and that will really show how successful they will be, just their engagement alone. And so we definitely want to make sure that we continue that outreach effort to all of our students. And I think with some of the changes that we've had this year with advisement, our advisors are on board through that case management style and process and the outreach and all of the concerns that you just mentioned. I like the opportunity for changing the wording so it doesn't seem punitive. These are opportunities. It's not a barrier for our students, and we definitely don't want to create that for them. But we also want to make sure that we can help them with that guided pathway, help them save some money by not having to take or taking courses that they definitely don't need, and also exploring other opportunities with these courses or programs as they meet with academic advisors.
Chairman Siegel, I think it's really important that we don't get into your procedures, and I think that we're sort of skirting that line right now. I agree with Kathy that I think the language can be more welcoming, can be more explicit, can be more about what the institution does rather than not what the institution does to the student, but what the institution does for the student. And that may be, as George is suggesting, a language issue. But I think the one thing we want to be really careful about is that we don't begin embedding procedures into the policies.
Agreed.
Okay.
So I think, but my recommendation would be based on policy, what I would like to see when we talk basically in our scope and applicability, or the first thing we say is this policy requires advising for all students, degree-seeking students. So rather than making this a requirement for every student, why aren't we making this a requirement of FSC? Let me try that again. Sfcc. I don't know why I couldn't get that out, but so why don't we say we as a college will meet with every new incoming student to advise them, not you student have to come and do this before you can engage with us in our system and be here.
Thank you, Member Keith. We appreciate the feedback.
So it sounds like that may need some wordsmithing. Maybe we should come back.
It's the first reading anyway.
Yeah, so you'll come back with some changes. Let's finish going through it because I have some other suggestions here. Under definitions, why do you need a definition of full-time students if you're not using full-time within the body of the policy? Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take that out. And then under policy process, you still have full-time degree-seeking students in both A and B.
And can I go back to definitions,
Uh-huh.
please? Under academic advisors, if I am a parent who's never had a student in college, if I'm a student who's never been to college, and somehow I get advice that says, well, you should look at the policy. This is what our policy says. So I look at, under definitions, and I'm trying to understand who an academic advisor is. So academic advisor refers to a faculty member or a professional academic advisor. Doesn't tell me anything about why would I meet with them, what do they do, what exactly is an academic advisor. And telling me that it's a faculty member or a professional advisor doesn't give me any information. And so as a parent or as a student who's never been to college, doesn't know anything about college, and we have a lot of those, I'm not sure what that is or why I should,
You want to know what they do in that definition?
Well, maybe what do they do? And Is it different if you're a faculty member? Part of Jack's question earlier, is it different if you're a faculty member or or a professional academic advisor? Do sometimes I go one place and sometimes I go another place? I mean, I don't think you need to go into the process you use, but I think the definition ought to be clear that when I read that, oh, that's what an academic advisor does. That's why I need to go see them.
Thank you, Member Romero. Yes, we will define roles better,
Okay,
Thank you.
more clear.
all right, and I think the rest of it was what we all have been talking about under the process.
Under the process, I have another question.
Okay,
Under D, and it again talks about language and the things that Kathy was talking about earlier. We have D and E, and it says the college will inform the student, and the advisors will inform the students. Well, does that mean you'll give me a piece of paper that says this is what they do? Does it, I mean, it seems to me that part of what we ought to be responsible for as a college is that we will discuss with the student, not that we, because informing takes a whole lot of non-personal ways of conveying information. I mean, I get a letter from TIAA and it informs me about a lot of things. It may not tell me very much about, and I may need to call up and say, I want to have a conversation with you. So I think if part of making the college responsible is to change some of that language from inform to maybe discuss, or maybe there's some other term, but it's a way of saying it's our responsibility to make sure that you know what we're doing.
Thank you, Member Romero. Very valid points.
okay. Thank you
Madam
all
Chair?
very much.
One quick question. So, as I understand the definitions under concurrent enrollment, this policy does not apply to dual credit students, to accredited dual credit students. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question, Member Sullivan. It does apply through their transition. So as they're coming in as a dual credit student with credits already from the college that they may have been guided through their high schools, we do work with them coming in as a new first-time freshman to the college. So that way we can work with them on their transfer credits if they came from another college, or with their current credits to make sure that they're in alignment with the program that they've selected.
But if they're a dual credit student, haven't you already met with them?
Member Sullivan, not in this format. We meet with dual credit students through a new orientation where Marcos and his team do a wonderful job of orienting them as to what happens on the college. But when it comes to academics, more so they're guided through their high schools for specific reasons through their academic programs. And that way when they come to our college, they meet with an academic advisor to look at what they have completed, not only to fulfill their high school credits, but now what can be used for their academic programs.
Okay, thank you. I think.
Okay, thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
And thanks for explaining what you all do. Okay, President's report.
All right, we will start off with the Employee of the Month reports. And so first of all, we have the Pass It Forward Award, which has been awarded to Michelle Harding from HR, and she was nominated by Reina Varela from the POM staff, and Michelle is here tonight, so.
Right. Thank
Very
you for
happy to have
coming.
her.
Yes, we appreciate it when you.
Members of the board and President Rowley, I'm sitting here dumbfounded, I guess, for passing it forward for doing my job, but I really appreciate being here. I'm relatively new to the community college, so it was exceptionally shocking to me, but I really appreciate it, and I'm honored to be here, and we will continue to move forward and work hard. So, and I've had Yash as my mentor, and it has been incredible, so I really appreciate the nomination. Thank you.
Coming and staying.
Thank you. And for the WOW Graham, we have Andrea Mueller from the PALM staff, who was nominated by Karen Pittman, also from PALM.
I don't know if you want. Madam President and Board, I nominated Andrea. She couldn't be here tonight. Do you want me to say anything about her?
Say why
Okay.
you nominated her.
I've worked with Andrea about a year now, and I was just really impressed with her and her professionalism and how she spent most of last Christmas vacation here, or winter break. She was here every day working on the fitness center renovation, and I thought that deserved some notice. So that was the main reason I nominated her. But just everyone I've talked to since I've been here that works with her really speaks well of her.
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Did she have a comment?
also gave a statement.
Oh, good.
She says, I am so grateful for this wonderful Wow Graham Award. I would like to thank Karen Pittman for the generous nomination and her kindness. It is an honor to work here at Sfcc, and I am so proud to be a graduate of Sfcc in the architectural drafting and construction management. My degree has truly served me well for over 15 years in the architecture and construction field. Kind regards and thank you.
Madam Chair, I just want to say again how much we appreciate when you all come, either because you're receiving an award or because you're nominating someone for an award. It's one of the ways that we have of knowing more of the staff and the faculty at the college, because there's a whole lot of you, and some of us don't have a whole lot of interaction with you on a day-to-day basis. So when you come, it really is helpful for us to get to know a little bit about you, a little bit about where you are, what you do, and what you care about. So thank you.
Okay, on to my report. Under accreditation, we had a practice site visit on October 21st to 22nd. Dr. Rebecca Stankowski from Purdue University Northwest came on campus and walked us through kind of a mock visit where we could identify some of the things that we needed to work on and we need to continue working on. She visited with several different constituency groups. She verified some things that we know that we need to work on. I don't really think that there were any surprises, but I would call it a very successful visit. And thank you to Jill for organizing that and keeping us on task. And so we have 12 action plan groups that are working on accreditation issues, and they report to the executive team on a monthly basis so that we can monitor that progress. Under the strategic plan for 2020-2025, the fall in-service on October 18th focused on a facilitated strategic planning session. Student representatives, faculty, and staff provided feedback that, along with input from students and community members, will be used to craft the 2020-2025 strategic plan. Under student engagement and success, Air Products has awarded welding student Callahan Job the $2,500 Air Products Women of Gases and Welding Scholarship. Alumni Esther Smith I didn't know about that prize. Alumna Esther Smith took home the top prize in the Fine Craft category at the 25th Annual Durango Autumn Arts Festival. She's a CCC graduate with a certificate in ceramics. Sfcc has received $50,000 for the PLOS paid internship program, $40,000 from the Regional Development Corporation, and $10,000 from Triad National Security, the manager of the Los Alamos National Lab. The Commission on Accreditation of Allied Health Education Programs voted to award continuing education to the Medical Assisting Program through the fall of 2027. Apparently that's a very difficult accreditation, so congratulations to them. On October 4th, the new initiative STEM Corps held a workshop promoting internship opportunities at the Los Alamos National Laboratory. The Indigenous Peoples Club and the Sfcc Spirit of Writing, Art and Justice Collective sponsored an Indigenous Peoples Day reading on October 14th. New Mexico Workforce Solutions partnered with Los Alamos National Laboratory and their contractors for a collaborative hire event on October 15th at the Santa Fe Higher Education Center. Also at the Santa Fe Higher Education Center's new partner, Bellevue University, hosted a grand opening on October 17th, and their president, Dr. Mary Hawkins, and I both made remarks. They are a college out of Nebraska that has just signed on with the HEC. On October 17th, the college held a reading and reception to launch the 2019 edition of the Santa Fe Literary Review, whose name is Raíces Down to the Roots. This edition features a short story by award-winning author Tommy Orange. The Welcome and Advising Center continues to welcome colleges and universities on campus to market transfer opportunities. And recently we've had Eastern New Mexico University, Fort Lewis College, New Mexico State, Northern New Mexico College, Savannah College of Art and Design, and the University of New Mexico. The Automotive Technology Program and the Recruitment and Dual Credit Office are coordinating the Battle Under the Hood at Capitol High. This was on October 25th. And what did I hear? There were 40 students, I think, that came to the Battle Under the Hood. So it was a great recruiting event. And also on October 26th, the Santa Fe Community College, the Financial Aid Office, and the HEC and the New Mexico Education Assistance Foundation hosted the first FAFSA rodeo to increase FAFSA completion. This was also a successful event, even though we inadvertently competed with ACT Day for that event. Through November 15th, the Office of Student Development is coordinating a winter clothing drive contest, inviting offices and departments to donate clothing to benefit students. On November 20th to 21st, the Student Clay Club will hold its annual ceramic sale. The School of Liberal Arts is hosting these fall literary events. On November 7th, poetry with Shuli Lambden in class. November 11th, creative nonfiction with Kate McCahill in class. November 20th, exploring creative writing with Terry Wilson in class. And November 21st, faculty and staff holiday reading. Under the local and statewide bonds, we're continuing the work on the William C. Witter Fitness Education Center, which includes the stucco renovations and finding vendors for replacing the mechanical systems. Under the Automotive Technology Center, the design team has participated in value engineering to get the project into budget, and I understand that hopefully we'll be breaking ground and starting construction the second week in November. Under the learning space, we're continuing work on the dust collection for the woodworking studios. We're continuing to work on the engineering for the welding lab upgrades. And under the parking lot improvements, the POM staff has released a request for quotes so that we can get that project moving along. Under the energy efficiency improvement plans, the plant operations management is defining these projects now, and the main switchgear project is in process. Under the additional learning center space and classroom improvements, we're getting quotes to update and renovate the bio wall, which we're hoping to complete during the winter months. Under community engagement, the Department of Nursing and Christus St. Vincent Regional Medical Center offered free flu vaccines for ages 2 and up on October 15th. On October 25th, Sfcc hosted Sustainability Day for the Chamber of Commerce Leadership Santa Fe class of 2020. That included tours of the campus and staff, and faculty conducted hands-on sustainability workshops. It was very well received, I think. The School of Science, Health, Engineering, and Math has filled a part-time position to manage the planetarium. Amanda Truitt, PhD, has created special events in the planetarium, including on October 31st, Scary Astronomy, 3 sold-out shows, and on November 21st, a pilgrimage to New Worlds. Under collective bargaining, the Labor Management Relations Board did not meet in October, and we're still working on the next meeting. Under administration, the New Mexico Board of Finance approved financing for the energy performance contract at the October meeting. And the National Alliance for Partnerships and Equity provided workshops and a webinar on equity for faculty and staff. The Human Resources Office held a health fair and open enrollment event on October 11th, And the open enrollment for insurance continues through November 15th. The Human Resources Office is temporarily changing its business hours from 9 to 3 to allow staff to focus on operational effectiveness projects, which I think is going along very well. And we currently have 21 job postings online. So the upcoming events from October 29th through November 1st, the fashion program student field trip to New York City. On October 31st, the Halloween extravaganza, a free and safe trick-or-treating. November 5th is Election Day, including for 2 governing board positions. November the 11th is Veterans Day. The main campus and the HEC remain open. On November 12th, credit registration for spring 2020 opens. And through November 21st, Raíces Down to the Roots is in the Visual Arts Gallery. November 28th through 29th is the Thanksgiving holiday and all facilities are closed. December 5th is the nursing pinning ceremony. December 7th is the fall 2019 commencement ceremony. December 7th, Sfcc Holiday Arts and Crafts Fair. December 21st through January 5th is the winter break and all facilities are closed. January 9th is convocation, and keeping this always on our list of upcoming events until it happens. February 17th through 18th, 2020 is the Higher Learning Commission's Accreditation site visit. And I would be happy to answer any questions if I can.
Questions? Jack?
One quick question, Madam President. Under community engagement, with our nursing department and Christus offering free flu vaccine shots, I've seen a number of entities around town, CVS and Walgreens and so forth, that advertise free flu shots. And then in small print it says, with appropriate insurance. And so my question is, did these free shots require insurance, or were they really free?
I am going to ask Dean Landon to address your question. I've seen that fine print.
Thank you, President Rowley, Madam Chair, Member Sullivan, members of the committee. It was actually totally free. And I know that is an issue when you see that around town, and it's true. You have to show even though it happened to my mother in Alaska, she kept saying she got a free flu shot. Well, it's because she was registered at the pharmacy that she got the shot at, so she didn't have to show anything and just gave her birthday. And that's what happens at the pharmacies. We have, since I've been here for 10 years, we have always had a totally free annual flu vaccine clinic. We always make sure that that is the way that we do it. And in addition to that, HR has usually always had an employee flu vaccine day where they had to have insurance. So we've had both here at the college. But the one with Christus and the ones we've had with the Department of Health have always been free.
Thank you. That's good to hear.
Madam Chair, just a quick question to follow up on Bellevue. I know that has been a long-waited, anticipated process to get Bellevue here. Would you talk to us remind us what degree programs and what is their schedule? Are they going to start offering and enroll classes in January and enrolling students? Are they on a semester system as well?
Member Keith, they are on a semester system. They are going to, right now what they're doing is they're advising our students, as I understand it. So one of the things that is kind of a distinguishing feature of Bellevue is that they really work hard to make sure that our credits articulate with their degree programs so that we can our students don't lose credits in the transfer process, which, as you know, is a serious issue oftentimes. They offer a wide variety of programs, many of which students can take online. They have a very robust online offerings. They offer a lot of tech degrees. They offer different bachelor's completion programs. Megan, am I missing things?
So they won't be offering on-the-ground classes. All of their program offerings are
Online.
And so I believe their plan is a 3-year kind of engagement and ramp up, and then at that point we can assess how their business is doing good business sense to them, then we can proceed into on-the-ground classes at that time.
Great.
But they have a staffer here, right?
They do.
They do.
A recruiter or?
So Mark Wood is their full-time relationship manager, so he's their recruiter, their promoter, their advisor. And he's housed at the HEC, so he meets with students there, talks to them about the Bellevue opportunities. If Bellevue isn't a good fit for them, then he walks them over either to talk to Northern or Highlands.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? Sorry, I had to step out a second. Do you have any update for us on the Midtown campus, since those developers are supposed to have their plans in by tomorrow, right?
Yes, the plans we have submitted more like a concept statement, which talks about our philosophy in assisting students, and that we wanted to develop our innovation center, but also Megan presented a very clear statement about how really we want to clarify our flexibility to be able to offer what's needed and what fits within our mission. So I've attended a couple of meetings where there's a lot of conversation about what kinds of programs are really going to be needed at the Midtown campus. And that seems to be kind of up in the air. Premature is a good way to put it. The other thing is that it's also pretty clear that housing is the primary issue there, and so I think that whichever master developer receives the contract is going to be asked to work on housing before anything else, and then they talk about the education moving in around the housing needs there. But we have visited and have our agreement to work with three or four master developers. So they've all, I think, reached out to us to find out see if we're interested in working with them, which of course we are.
And so is the plan, as I understand it, the city council is supposed to pick one in January or February?
I think.
That was the stated plan a while ago. Okay, great. Any other
So,
questions?
yeah, so what would the process be if they're going to submit something by tomorrow? Will we get a copy of what they submit and know anything about?
What they have all said is that once someone is selected, then they will reveal the details of their plans once they're, so that we know in kind of a general sense that they have a major housing, person or group that they're working with, that they have a film studio that they're working with, and just kind of the structure like that they all have kind of an urban development plan where they'll go in and provide better access streets and things like that, so that there's a better blending with the neighborhood. But the other piece of the proposal process is that we are in the process regardless of who wins the proposal for the master developer. So if the master developer that we submitted with doesn't win, we're still in as the community college that represents that, from Santa Fe, and so we can work with whichever developer gets the proposal. And they've all been, even the one that we officially signed with hasn't given us that many details, but they've all said that once they're selected, then we know everything in terms of who all of their potential partners are and everything.
Okay. Okay, Henry, do you want to come up and do the automotive?
And where is that?
Oh, we moved it up. It's,
Yeah, but where is it?
It's G or something.
FB.
F.
Chairman, members of the board, President Rowley, thank you for this opportunity this evening. We've always promised and committed to providing open communication on the Automotive Technology Center as well as other projects, and we want to make sure that we kept you up to date on our current progress. This is an information item, and we wanted to update you on our progress towards the guaranteed maximum price, which is a price that's agreed to and committed to by the owner, the architect, and the contractor. So once we initiate in construction, we are held by a guaranteed maximum price. This particular price was updated. The previous price we gave you early in July did not include the OIT costs, primarily the fiber optics connection and some of the OIT equipment, infrastructure equipment, and it didn't include the fire alarm system. So there is no increase in the total project costs. We just wanted to include OIT construction infrastructure and the fire alarm project within the total construction price, and so it's under the purview of the construction manager at risk. So the current guaranteed maximum price is now $5,482,700. I've got Mr. Chris Van Dyke, principal from Greer Stafford, and Luke Harward, principal from Enterprise Builders, and Ms. Karen Pittman, she's our project director for project management. And at this point, we can stand for any questions or provide you any more input if necessary.
So I have a question. So we have this guaranteed price now, but say the price of steel dramatically increases or something. How does that work? I mean, what if you can't buy steel at the price we have?
Very good question. Thank you for the question, and we're all worried about that as we proceed with some of these quote tariffs that seem to be in the news these days. But I'm gonna let the construction manager at risk answer that question because it's most impacted by him.
So basically, in our pricing right now, we do include a contingency fund in that's part of our guaranteed maximum price. So if things do come up like material escalation, we have a contingency fund to pay for things like that.
And that's in the 5.4 million?
Yes. So basically,
So it's padded?
yeah. So if that contingency fund goes unused, all the savings go back to the college. Okay. And it's an open book process as well. So the contingency fund will be open book.
I've just, since we have construction people here, I'm wondering about what success you're having getting concrete, and particularly fly ash for your concrete.
Is that in China too?
Well, actually, the fly ash is in the United States, most of it, but now they're importing it.
We've had no issues with concrete at all on any of our projects that we currently have going on right now.
Okay.
We actually just finished up several of them here in Santa Fe as well.
So you've been able to get all the additives so far?
Yes.
Because,
no problems at all.
Okay, I'm glad to hear that because nationwide, apparently, it's been cut out by about 50%.
Power plant is, 200 miles away. And that's
So you can get it locally, yeah.
where we get all of our fly ash from.
Yeah, because some of them.
What is fly ash?
Well, why don't you explain what?
It's basically a component that's mixed into the concrete.
Yeah, but where does it come from?
Well, it comes from coal.
It's some kind of...
It's the residue from coal burning.
Oh, it's actually from coal burning.
Yeah, but it strengthens the concrete by reacting to the alkali in the concrete and makes the concrete less vulnerable to strength problems and crackage and so forth. So, but they're having a hard time getting it. But I guess that's one benefit of Four Corners, so we can still get fly ash. Huh? Okay, thank you very much. I was just curious.
And Chairman, members of the board, Madam President, just to add on to Luke's comments, we've done a couple of concrete projects on campus. Most recently, the new concrete addition at the fitness center, and we had no problems.
No problems. Okay, good.
Madam Chair? Just a quick question about timing. I always ask this question, right? So would you walk us through what your anticipated time frame is?
Thank you for that question. I'm slightly anticipating that question, so we came a little prepared. Chairman, members of the board, Madam President, thank you so much. I'm going to just briefly give you a highlighted schedule. We're actually pleased to announce that we, as of Monday, our architects submitted what we call an early work package to CID, our State Construction Industries Department, and we're hoping As Madam President mentioned, we're hoping to either start in 2 weeks or hopefully before the end of the month, just depending on how long it takes CID to give us an accepted, reviewed set of drawings. Just a real high-level schedule as we're marching towards and we're looking at. We submitted the early work package October 25th to CID. We're going to have a 50% drawing package to the college around the 11th of November, and the college is trying to turn around these reviews within 5 working days. So we'll get it back to Greer Stafford by 11:15. We hope to have the 100% to us by December 2nd.
This is the architectural design?
These are the architectural designs, and 50% and 100% by December 2nd, and the college will turn that around by December 11th. And then ultimately, we hope to have a CID review of those plans for the entire project between the 5th of December and the 7th of January. And our construction is scheduled to start full-blown after that, and we hope to complete the project around August or September of 2020.
Great.
Madam Chair. Henry, what permits do we or the contractor have to obtain?
Yeah, let me let Mr. Van Dyke answer that. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board.
Hey, Member Sullivan. We are required to get a building permit from Construction Industries Division of the state of New Mexico. The contractor will use that to proceed with construction. We'll also have reviews. In fact, we've already done a preliminary review of the drawings and design with CID to smooth that process. We'll also have it reviewed by the fire marshal, state fire marshal. We've also met with the county fire marshal. They don't issue permits, but they will review the final building and help issue a certificate of completion.
CO.
Yes. Yeah. Did I miss anything, Luke?
Just one other thing too, we'll get a permit from the EPA for stormwater pollution prevention plan, and we initiated that process today.
For what?
The SWIP.
Stormwater pollution prevention plan. Basically, is to prevent, any of our construction activities from going off-site.
Maintaining our stormwater within the confines of the construction project.
Yeah, I think, just based on my experience, that I'm glad to hear that you're interacting with the fire marshal's office early on, because my experience has been that that's one of the most disastrous things to happen is, you get ready to open the doors and you suddenly find out that your fire facilities don't meet something that you didn't know was required a year ago, and it's significant delays can occur. And even though permits aren't issued, people change, and so I guess what I'm saying is keep at that, and don't let that fall through the cracks.
Yeah. Thank you. Well advised. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, good to see that you're moving forward. And November 15th was just mentioned, but is that groundbreaking?
Well, we submitted our early work package to CID, and we're really dependent on how long it takes them to give us a completed set of reviews drawings. We're hoping in 2 weeks, but it could be longer. It could be anywhere from 2 to 6 weeks, but we're hoping for a 2-week turnaround.
Yeah, if that did happen, would you then go to groundbreaking? Because you still have other reviews, don't you?
We would then look to amend the contract with the early work package guaranteed price, and I presume at that point we'd start the earthwork.
Are we going to have a shoveling ceremony or something?
Well, we had a breaking ground ceremony early. And,
Oh, that's
we could have another one, but
That's fine. All right.
Madam
anybody
Chair,
else?
one more quick question on following up on the timing. So if the building's going to be completed in September, when do we anticipate having students in the building?
So very good question. Thank you, Chairman, members of the board. We've been, the instructional team is part of our construction and project management team, so they're right in their wheelhouse developing and reviewing drawings. anticipated that we would have students in as soon as that building is completed, but this classes scheduled for fall of 2020 can still go on because it's our understanding that the first 6 weeks of courses are within a classroom, and right now they're using the HEC, and they could continue to use the HEC. So we really have a 6-week cushion period, even if we had a weather issue, let's say, and so we have a little bit of a cushion there.
Great. That's exciting.
Yes, it's very exciting.
That
Thank
we'll
you.
have students in the classroom fall of next year.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, enrollment report.
Good evening, Chair Siegel, members of the board, President Rowley, President Martinez. I am super excited to be in front of you all today to share with you that we continue to see positive numbers with our fall 2019 enrollments. As you can see from the report in front of you, we are up this time compared to this time last year by 1%. We are also up almost 2% compared to end of term numbers last fall semester. This is huge. These are great accomplishments through collaborations throughout the college campus. So again, I'd like to just recognize all of the efforts from everyone across campus. With that, I'd also like to share with you that we just received confirmation that our first-time, full-time freshman numbers are up 12.7%.
Wow.
And this is huge compared to this time last fall semester. So all of the initiatives that we were currently talking about, or just earlier talking about through our academic advisement, we are taking all of this into consideration and really working strongly with all of these students to continue to improve our retention rates and go through completion rates. As we look at the spring semester and preparing for that, President Rowley mentioned earlier that early registration starts November the 12th. Again, through academic advisors, across campus college partnerships, we have been reaching out to students for so many different issues and efforts to try and get them prepared for the spring semester. We have started our phone calls, early advisement before the early registration because schedules are available for them to review, to start that conversation with our students in effort to try and help guide them through a completion or a stronger pathway for their academic program. We are also looking at different types of early outreach through different levels, our person-to-person, almost through our students as well, looking at a mentor process with them, text messages, emails, social media, every effort and avenue that we can to reach out to multiple students in different ways. We're doing that. I'm very proud to announce that a lot of our offices are also extending their service hours to also reach out to our post-traditional students. We are also considering different types of outreach initiatives after hours, if you will, after hours for us, after 5, when our folks are at home and our parents are there if they need to speak about or ask any questions. So we're really looking at all of these efforts and all of our student populations and not just focusing on our traditional students as well. So we're really excited with our numbers. Our goals are really strong for the spring semester. My colleague here is going to share a little bit about his outreach efforts as well. And it's strong collaboration, and so we're really excited with that. And I believe after my colleagues' presentations, we can stand for any further questions that you might have.
Thank you, Thomasina. Forgot your name for a second. I got nervous. Chair Siegel.
Mean up here.
I know, it's intimidating much. Chair Sullivan, President Rowley, we always strive to keep our reports fresh, and so we're going to present a few numbers. We've called it Recruitment, Public Relations, and Marketing by the numbers. 149, the number of articles including or about Santa Fe Community College in 2010. 344, the number of articles including or about Santa Fe Community College in 2018.
920, the number of registered dual credit students this semester at Santa Fe Community College, an all-time record.
3, the number of cover stories about Santa Fe Community College in the Santa Fe Reporter in the past 5 months.
120. The number of high school seniors who participated in the 2018-2019 Ticket to College workshops. And I just want to add right now that our very first Ticket to College workshop for this new academic year starts this Friday, November 1st at Capitol High School, and 30 seniors have signed up already right off the bat.
69%. This is the percentage of households we've reached between May and September in our Comcast television ad campaign. We've reached them an average of 7 times each on 24 networks.
68,000. The number of video views in our You Got This Facebook and YouTube video campaigns.
33.7. The email open rate of our You're So Close emails, a fall enrollment push to re-recruit students who were close to earning a degree or certificate but were not enrolled.
How many was that?
It's 33.7% of the people, of 1,000 people open the email. The average is about 5% on standard marketing campaigns. I'm gonna steal, we have an odd number of things. 0, the number of customer relationship management systems in place at Santa Fe Community College. 1, the number of customer relationship management systems in place at Santa Fe Community College as of November.
And last but certainly not least.
Okay.
And last but certainly not least, and just to once again echo what my amazing colleague Thomasina just said, 12.7% increase of first-time, full-time freshmen at SFCC. Madam Chair.
Question?
Madam
No,
Chair.
you should. Go ahead. I'll have some questions.
Okay, kudos, first of all. Keep up the good work. I see that we have a total enrollment, degree seeking and non-degree seeking, of right around 10,900 students, if you add your chart up. Head count, this is head count, not credit hours. And I was also interested to see that almost an equal number of those, about 20% non-degree seeking and about 19% degree seeking, are seniors over age 65. So very often we get comments about, or perhaps misunderstandings that the seniors just come to Santa Fe Community College to do woodworking. No one accepted there down at the end of the road, but or
I thought it was fitness.
or fitness training, has a lot of those too, you know, and we need it too. But aside from that, there is a serious number of seniors over the age of 65 who are taking advantage of Santa Fe Community College in degree-seeking components. And just a few months ago, we heard from former Mayor David Koss, who went through an associate degree in Spanish. So I am impressed with that, and I appreciate our outreach to new students, which is what we've been focusing on. But I also appreciate that we have another constituency here that's very important in our community, particularly when it comes to bond approval time, and that we're servicing them apparently to the point where they're continuing to enroll. So that I just wanted to add that little comment and say that keep up that initiative as well. Thank you.
Okay, so on the Pell eligible, so only 26% of our total students are Pell eligible?
Degree seeking.
Yeah, of our degree seeking students are Pell eligible?
Chair Siegel, yes, that does appear to be the current record right now, 757 students, and it's we're looking at full-time enrollment, I believe is how this report is carved out as well. So I believe overall eligible for financial assistance, the numbers are relatively much higher than that, but this is primarily full-time enrollment. So we have many students, Chair Siegel, if I may, we have many students who are less than full-time who also qualify for Pell grants.
I thought you had to be full-time to get Pell.
No, ma'am, you could be,
Part-time?
Chair Siegel, you could be taking as few as 3 credit hours, I believe it is.
Great. And this is, I always add these numbers up, the 18 to 24 numbers and then the 25 to 44. And this is the first time in a long time that the 18 to 24 students are more than the 25 to 44. And I guess that's attributable to our huge new freshman class. And so this new, under the head count, new students, 415, how many of those are freshmen? Or can you?
Thank you, Chair Siegel. We don't have that information present in front of us, but we definitely can pull that data for you. We did not break it up by classification, but it is something that we can pull together for the board.
Okay. Anybody else?
Madam Chair? I just want to say quickly, congratulations on the 12.7% increase, and thank you so much for all the innovative work that you guys have done in reaching out to students and bringing them back to Santa Fe Community College.
These are great, great numbers.
Madam Chair?
Attributable to your great efforts. Thank you.
And I also think that these numbers also show that, you know, we care, SFCC cares. And again, with the policy, you know, new students, we all need help sometimes. We all do. So having that first advising session with the student, I feel is going to help that student and establish confidence in the student. And also it will take them, it'll help them succeed at the end of the day, because that student doesn't know what's really going on, you know. So thank you guys for all your efforts. Seriously, it makes the difference, and we can obviously tell. Thank you.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
Deborah, Foundation.
Madam Chair, governing board members, President Raleigh, clearly that is a hard act to follow.
Has the money increased by 12%?
Yes, ma'am, it has. Not by 12%, no, but it has increased from last year at the same time. So I'm happy to be here to give you my regular quarterly report. And revenue for the first quarter of fiscal year 2019-2020 was $218,133. That is unaudited. And it is an increase of $9,743 from the prior year. Investment earnings for the same periods were $22,263 for a total of $240,396 in new cash gifts and investment earnings. So of some of the highlights of those gifts, I just would like to point out a few. Ancorum St. Vincent awarded a grant of $46,515 to fund the Capitol High Licensed Practical Nursing LPN program. They additionally donated a Medtronic ventilator to the respiratory therapy program, which is an in-kind value of $21,000, and that was brand new in the box. They ordered it from their supplier for us, so that was wonderful. And you heard from the President's report earlier that the PLAS program was awarded $50,000 with combined funds mostly through Triad National Security, LLC. And the foundation had committed to raise $40,000 to match the $40,000 that was awarded last year. But since they gave an additional $10,000, we are going to raise $50,000 to match that. So something else that I think is a very interesting thing to point out is the Santa Fe Concorso, which is has been an annual event that is very popular in Santa Fe of vintage cars. Decided to close their nonprofit organization, and chose Santa Fe Community College to have the assets of their nonprofit distributed to. So that was approximately $40,000, and we have a thanks to Vice Chair Jack Sullivan for having made the introductions for us to the board members. So thank you, Vice Chair Sullivan. And the funds will actually endow a scholarship named after Denise McCluggage, who was really kind of the spirit and the founder of the Concurso in Santa Fe. And the foundation will match the funds that they contributed to that, bringing it up to over the presidential level. And they will also provide 3 annual scholarships for 3 years, because many of our endowment holders are beginning to create endowed scholarships and then an annual one so that it can start giving right away while the endowed scholarship matures over the period of time before it can begin awarding. And that's a very, very thoughtful gift. They have photos of classic cars that will be in a special hall marked for the Concurso, and that someone said, were they giving us cars? And I said, no, it's the photographs, but we're working on getting donations of cars too. And they will also provide funds for our students to attend the Skills USA competition, for various things like pay for not only the travel funds, but for shirts that are branded that they can wear, and ASE certification fees, automotive service excellence certification, and even tools. So those funds will go very far. And everyone's very excited about it. And the director of the automotive technology program, Julia Furry, was really instrumental in helping to prepare that proposal to them. So many thanks to her. And also the Firstborn program received a second grant installation of $25,000 from a Taos-based foundation, Robert T. Keeler, and that was a $50,000 gift. So, as you know, we have every year met our matching fund obligations, and I just wanted to list them for you. The Contract for Better Tomorrow Scholarship, which was started by former governing board members Bruce Besser and Carol Brito Besser, is still going strong. And one
They finally get married?
Yes, they did. That wasn't in my report, but yes, they did. And so that's a $50,000 award, which we will match 1-to-1. Of course, I already mentioned PLOS. We're bringing that up from 40 to 50. Staff and faculty professional development, we have been funding every year at $30,000, and I believe this year might be the first year that the college will be able to contribute to that. So that fund will hopefully be expanded and be available to more faculty and staff for travel or to bring speakers here to our campus, which is always helpful. We have regularly received a gift of $18,000 from the City of Santa Fe Veterans Commission, and they want to continue that program, so we will match that 1-to-1. And then the foundation has created a Pueblo and Tribal Scholarships Fund at $11,000, and we hope to be expanding that as well. So those are our commitments at this point to matching funds. But we're also very excited that the Title V program will provide a $225,000 over 5 years. Actually, our matching program doesn't start until the 3rd year, the way the college has planned it, but we thought we would start by getting pledges in the first 2 years, and that would become due in the 3rd year. So we're already planning for that. We're very excited about that. We were able to really expand our endowment, and it's almost 10 years now since I started working here, and I think that the endowment when I came on board was under $4 million, and now it's closer to $9 million. So we're going to just keep working on that, because that's in perpetuity, and those funds are our investment in the future. So I also would like to inform the board that the foundation board voted unanimously on October 11th to have new members come in, and one of our board members, Jeff Sabat, who's Senior Vice President at Century Bank and also President of the Board of the Chamber of Commerce, is replacing our dear board member, Martha Romero, who has been the governing board representative to the foundation board and is stepping down or has stepped down, and so he has stepped up. And also for secretary, Mr. Adam Strammel, who is vice president of commercial lending at New Mexico Bank and Trust. He has become the secretary. And then we're really thrilled that our president appointed as a general board member, Ms. Tomasina Ortiz Gallegos, associate vice president for student success, and she's a wonderful addition to the board and a voice in addition to Ian Martinez, who serves on our board as a presidential appointee to represent our students. And then finally, as a general member, Mr. Michael Charles Davis, who's the CEO of Merrick Security Solutions and a cyber security expert, 22-year veteran of the Navy and working in that field. So we're very thrilled that he's joined our board as well. So upcoming meetings, those of you that did attend our annual scholarship luncheon, thank you so much. I think it was one of our best, and the students were extraordinary. And then we have our December 4th annual joint meeting, which I think will also present a great opportunity for the new board members to get to know each other, to get to know both boards, and that we can do some joint planning. And with that, I would happy to take any questions.
Madam Chair, I just want to say thank you. It's a great start to the year.
Thank you very much.
I have a question. So if people are they've got their presidential scholarship or whatever, and then they're giving another amount to create an immediate scholarship, what are those average? Are those like $1,000?
Yes, they are in full-time 1,000. Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
And
so,
go ahead.
No, this is it's turned into an opportunity for people who want to see students being helped right away.
Now.
They're very motivated, and this is a way for them to do that, because they know it takes a while for the funds to mature, particularly in this market.
Mm-hmm. And so the criteria for every scholarship, I mean, they can say, oh, I'd like you to give this to a nursing student or whatever.
That's correct.
But is there other criteria that's established by the foundation for how people?
It's established by the foundation in accordance with the criteria that's used in our Office of Financial Aid. So it's the same criteria. It's just that donors have an opportunity to say, well, we want this to be in sustainability studies, or we want this to be in the arts. And so we have something for just about every discipline and every area of study on this campus.
So one has to be Pell eligible to qualify for our scholarships?
FAFSA is required to demonstrate need for foundation scholarships.
Okay. All right, just wanted to clarify that.
Certainly.
Okay, well, these are wonderful numbers. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Just a quick question. To what extent are the scholarships used, let's say, last year? So we have, I don't know, 100, 200 scholarships. If recognizing that indeed some of them are for left-handed people who have come in from Wyoming or something, and we don't have any left-handed people from Wyoming. So are there some percentage, roughly, of scholarships that are not awarded because there are not students who meet those criteria?
Well, Secretary Gamble, I can say this in terms of endowments that were created some time ago, before I arrived on the scene, when I've been informed by financial aid that they're difficult to award, and the donors are still with us, then I've made a point to go and meet with the donors and ask them if they could expand. And one really great example of that is we had a creative writing scholarship that had been created some years ago, and it had a very, very prescribed criteria that the donors put in place. And, a woman of color who was a single mom who was writing poetry, and it was very hard to award. And so I met with the donors and I asked them I asked them to think about ways in which it could be broadened. And it was their idea to actually, they wanted to promote writing, creative writing across the entire college. And our creative writing competition came out of that. And from the competition, the winners and the runners-up of that competition become the pool for who it's determined who will receive the Richard Bradford Memorial Creative Writing Scholarship. And so it was a very good opportunity to engage the donors who then increased the amount as well. And that's how we do it. If they're not still with us, then we could approach the Attorney General and give a reason and why it should be changed, and having to do with updated data and need.
Right. So is it not a major issue in terms of the percentage of scholarships? Like, do you have, I don't know.
I don't have those numbers at my fingertips.
Right. I don't want the numbers.
I think it's a very low percentage.
Okay.
If they're not awarded, we will find out about it and then try to change it. Yeah. We want to, the whole idea is to serve our students and to make sure that we aren't placing more hurdles in front of them.
Sure.
But making it easier for them to get the help they need, and the financial aid in particular.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our communication section, Faculty Senate report.
President Rowley, Chair Siegel, members of the board. Last time we were here, there was some discussion about the nature of our report, and I did some extensive consulting with the Senate, and the sentiment was two things. One is that we do present the minutes from our meetings, and I will take questions on the minutes that we have submitted, but we're always a little bit behind, and so the Senate would prefer that I report on the most recent meeting, which you have not received minutes from as a general rule. And they also felt that there were a lot of activities of the Senate that happen outside of the meetings. And so there's a lot of what we do that isn't necessarily going to be in the minutes, and they'd like that not to be kept from the board but presented. So in that sentiment, I'll have a brief report tonight, but I will take questions on the minutes. I believe you have the minutes from our two meetings in September, but not from our meeting on October 4th, because we'll approve those minutes this Friday. We formed an academic freedom committee. The academic freedom committee is around there. A lot of topics seem to come out that seem to be making faculty anxious that there may be intrusion into what they feel is sacrosanct faculty responsibilities. And so we created a committee that's going to be, as things come up in that, to address those within that context and bring feedback of how we can, of what our concerns are. And I know a lot of times I had a long meeting with Margaret yesterday about there are things that are being done that are very productive and very proactive and very good. And it's how can we involve the faculty in those designs earlier so they don't feel as though it's an intrusion into their areas of expertise. And I think we can do that. So the Academic Freedom Committee is going to be vetting a lot of those things and raising those issues as they come along. We have had a very long and productive work on the academic integrity process, how we deal with cheating or plagiarism within the classroom, how we can keep it at the lowest level, and I think we've come up with a good process that will be excellent going forward. Yash came in and had a great presentation for us on some updates to our HR processes in terms of posting and how we go about creating committees. And I think there was some good feedback that he got, that faculty had about what they thought were important additions that we might make to those processes. We had an excellent meeting with Dr. Rowley on September 6th, and a lot of that is reflected in the minutes of our meeting, and we're hoping to have her come back to the Senate again sometime very soon. We have ongoing work with the faculty handbook, so it's a slower process than I think we had hoped, but we're in a process and we have a table of contents and we have a number of people out there creating content. We've been looking at Highlands and CNM as being the two that we thought had the best basis to work off of, and so we're moving forward with that. And we've been doing a lot of work on the credit hour policy, defining what a credit hour is, both from what the national standards are, but then defining what we would like to see it as on our campus. And that will be a work in process, but I believe you'll be getting that policy moved forward to the board in the next month. Any questions?
Questions? I have a question under the academic freedom about, it says a violation of the CBA may be made in regards to mandatory attendance. Mandatory attendance at committees? Policy under academic freedom.
I believe that
Marcy said this.
that was raised as an issue. I think that is not going forward. I don't believe that is going forward.
Okay.
I believe that was part of the union report, and that so we allow them a report during our meeting, but we don't address the union issues within the Senate.
Okay, any other? Yes?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So in your minutes from, September 20th, I was interested in your discussion about the work for the petition to graduate, and whether that should involve a faculty member. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Whether faculty should be involved in the petition to graduate?
And we must still do a petition to graduate.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. I think a lot of the faculty feel that if the earlier the content expert in that particular area is involved, the more likely the student will complete all of their requirements and not be petitioning to graduate without having really met all of the necessary requirements. Sometimes I know we found a lot in trade. Some of the advisors in the central advising office may be aware of a pathway, but not necessarily exactly which semester's classes required will be offered. So students can sometimes be put off a whole year in their graduation because they were advised they could take a class in a semester when the content expert knew that would not be a possibility unless we made an exception, created a independent study to help them graduate. But we're trying to avoid that sort of process and help them on the right sequencing track.
And then for the president, is the petition to graduate something that we hold as a firm requirement, that the student must file a petition to graduate? And at what point that needs to be done?
Chair Siegel, Member Romero, we do require the petition to graduate. I will have to, in my experience is that's more the signal for advising or whoever to do a check and to make sure that they filled all the graduation requirements they need to be able to graduate, and that most students who have had relatively consistent advising when they fill that, when they fill that petition out, that they're going to, they're going to find that they're on track, and then that proceeds on through admissions, and then they follow the process.
So how soon from the time to graduation is that done? I
think Thomasina better come on. I've taken you as far as I can take you.
I understand.
Thank you, Member Romero. Members of the board, in their final semester is primarily when they petition to graduate. And it's early on in the semester, and it does come with very strategic academic advising and working with the students, communicating with them, making sure that they're on track. And the hope is at the time that they come to their final semester that everything is good and there are no surprises, but the sooner we may perhaps find out about a surprise or so, we can work very diligently with the student. The process also helps the Office of the Registrar prepare for graduation and commencement, and prepare the student for that process as well.
How is the student informed that they need to petition?
Thank you, Member Romero. That's through the advisement process. And what we've also done this semester is we've identified several students who, by number of credits, and started working with those students within the program through advisement. Academic advisors are doing it to see how close they are to completion. And perhaps they don't know, because there are some students who don't know that that's the process or the requirement. And we're reaching out to the students and reminding them of what the process is.
What prompts my question is that there are many schools that have discovered that that has become an impediment to graduation, and that there are students who complete all their requirements, but because no one has informed them that they should petition to graduate, they keep going to school because they think, oh, okay, I have to register for more classes because they haven't told me I'm ready to graduate. So, I'm just curious about that doesn't fall through, that our students don't fall through the cracks in that process.
Member Romero, I agree. Members of the board, through the Title V grant, we have an opportunity to buy software, whether it's DegreeWorks or something of the like. That is going to help us as a college communicate more effectively with students that will show them a gauge of where they're at in completion of their program. With that, it shows a percentage. You're 100% complete or nearing completion, whatever message we want to put on there. And as we build that, this is going to be an excellent opportunity for us to communicate more effectively with our students to make sure that they stay on track and help us so we can pull the analytics from that. And then perhaps we can get to a real comfortable place to where maybe we don't need that extra piece of paper, but at least we have something there to show everyone what those requirements are when we get to that close point to graduation.
And what's the timeline for that?
Thank you for asking. We are hoping to have DegreeWorks start working on it and building it this year. Until we get to that point, because it does take time with many active members across campus, we will continue with our individual efforts of identifying the students independently and then reaching out to them through the academic advisors.
Thank you. Zubi, thank you for signaling that conversation is going on.
And I do want to comment that our Student Services Division has been extremely flexible in helping students who maybe didn't meet the deadline for petitioning to graduate, but allowing them later to come back and do that. And I also will say that having the faculty involved in the advising process early is very helpful, because in my program, I know the students in my classes, and I know whether they're close to graduating more than anybody else, more than they do oftentimes. So I think it's the more the faculty are involved, the more likely we are to catch somebody who doesn't know they're ready to graduate. So,
thanks, Zubi, and thanks, Tomasina.
Madam Chair? Yes. A quick question. I just wanted to, on the minutes of September the 20th, item 5, the strategic planning, human and cultural diversity piece. So we talk about the preparation of the HLC visit, goal 5.1, human and cultural diversity. We need to focus on essential skills, outcomes, and we need evidence as to how faculty are addressing this in their classes. Can you tell me about the process that's ensuing so that we have that?
I mean, this was a report from Dr. Gondara in our meeting, and it's something that we are looking at. Do
I'd be happy to answer that. I'm co-chairing that one with Brooke, if you don't mind. So we have the new state outcome. One of them is personal social responsibility, which we're linking to the diversity work. Right now, we have all of the program learning outcomes in the college from all programs mapped to the 5 essential skills. And so I can pull reports when faculty are reporting, say, on a nursing outcome about professional communication, which includes diversity, down into that. Eventually, right now, this year, we're focusing on building gen ed assessment with critical thinking. Next year, we'll be doing, I believe, personal social responsibility, and maybe there's 2 for next year, quantitative reasoning. And so right now, it's a little bit more indirect. We've also received a lot of information about events that have gone on in the past 2 years because we do so many events. And so we're just working to document that better.
Great.
Did that answer your question, board member?
And so the faculty's role in that, it was really just an informational piece that those standards are already spelled out and you guys are just pulling from those standards to put in the HLC reporting process.
Yes, we're pulling out of our assessment report, our assessment software called Improve.
Great, thank you.
This could be a good transition.
Well, George has a question for you.
Just wondering, could you talk, Zuby, about the process for the rationale for developing the faculty handbook? I take it is that something new?
We've been working on it for a couple of years.
Oh.
It is an accreditation issue to not have one. And the faculty also feel that having a faculty handbook that kind of will be an important part of faculty onboarding going forward, which isn't great right now, and I think we're really working on improving that. And I thank Dr. Rowley for really putting an emphasis on helping with that. I know she was onboarded and then herself. So this will give kind of what we're trying to do is map out what is our first shot at it. Our committee came back with an aspirational document of what they thought should be here. And the Senate felt what we should do is have a document that spells out, without having to read every policy, what is in place and where to find details on what is required or expected of faculty. And I think that's going to be extremely helpful for everybody in terms of there won't be anybody that should be able to say, I wasn't clear about the expectations, that they will be spelled out and looking towards ways that we can use that handbook and also a mentoring process to help new faculty really understand what is involved here.
And if I may clarify, I don't believe it'll be a finding as an issue, but every time we submit, or most times when we submit something, they want us to link either the faculty handbook or the faculty and staff handbook, and we have not had one to link up there. So I would anticipate the peer reviewers may ask about it.
I think I got a staff handbook when I started here.
Maybe we have one.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Zuby. All right.
Stay here then.
Staff Senate.
Staff Senate report. Madam Chair, members of the board, President Rowley. We have a couple sets of minutes in there, as you can see. We had a really informative presentation by Rael Chaikin from the PLS program about the internships and how that's growing. We have worked with Yash on hiring process improvements, and the Senate was very happy to be consulted on that and had quite a few suggestions. We had a really informative and I think productive conversation with Dr. Rowley, although there do continue to be ongoing concerns about the Evergreen Comp and Class study, and I've been in communication with her about perhaps broadening out to all of the staff, not just the ones who come to Staff Senate, our communication about that. So we're working on that together. The staff is really pleased to hear that solving problems in the most collegial way and the least confrontational way, especially when it gets HR involved, is a goal. We've found that already to be true. I'm hearing good reports back, so that rather than escalating into, God forbid, the legal arena, that we're solving them at a much lower level, and that's very much appreciated. We continue to work on our strategic priorities. You'll see in our next set of minutes, we actually voted on which ones that we want to put some energy behind this year, and I'll talk about that more next month. And with that, if I might interject one thing on accreditation, I realize that's not in the report, but probably February 17th in the evening, the HLC peer reviewers are going to want to have dinner with you. So if you all could pencil that in, and I'll get an email out through Tricia, I would appreciate it. I can't guarantee that. February 17th, which is a Monday evening. It's typical that the site visitors want to have an early evening meeting with the governing board on the Monday of their visit. So just giving you a heads up. And with that, I'll stand for questions.
Questions?
Thanks for sending us the nice photo with your minutes.
Sure, thank you.
It's nice to put faces and names together, right?
Yes, very much so.
members
And
who
there were a few people there who didn't want to be photographed, but we've certainly had more and more people attending our meetings this semester.
I guess we have no questions.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe.
All right.
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Rowley. Hello, everyone. Is it winter break yet?
Almost.
Almost. So, October 1st, student government, we had our first meeting with Dr. Rowley, where we presented the goals of student government, which are to establish relationships with students, establish relationships with clubs, and to make sure that the students are aware of the student government entity. And we made these goals for the semester because we're a new team, and as we've been out in the community and out in the community of students, we've noticed students aren't really aware of the student government entity or what student government does. So we really wanted to pick up the awareness of student government. We presented ideas to her that student government came up with. Some ideas were a Thanksgiving care packages, Student of the Month award, signature cards, and SFCC movie nights. And these are all activities, ideas that can really help engage and create that sense of community in our student population. And we're going to reach these goals by doing campus center meetings. I can't remember if I talked about campus center meetings. Campus center meetings are our meetings with student government officers out in the campus center area where we have, say, a $1 food item or some type of incentive motive for students to come see a student government officer, possibly look at other leadership programs that we have to offer, look at student government, and hopefully with those interactions we have with students, we can create more engagement in our monthly meetings. So, and we're also going to attend club meetings and provide student government guidance to clubs that look to fundraise and try to steer them clear of the potholes. And we want to encourage the clubs to attend events and to fundraise at those events. So, and we had our first campus center meeting on October 3rd, where we had $1 hot dogs for students, free lemonade and popcorn for all. 60 out of 75 hot dogs were sold, and we handed out items of swag. Our next campus center meeting is going to be November 7th, from 12 to 1 in the campus center. But we noticed as we were doing these meetings, staff and faculty felt a bit left out because hot dogs were for students only as it was student government funds. So perhaps we can look at a different or other funds to include staff and faculty in these types of events. October 11th was the Student Government Association meeting. Policy 3-8 was presented to the student government and approved by the Executive Council. PLOS program presentation presented to student government for awareness of the program. And clubs got clarity on how they can be put on the agenda to request funds. And student government is receiving informative training on how to observe SGA fund request forms and forming subcommittees to review those fund request forms. October 18th was Professional Development Day, where student government officers, student ambassadors, and students got to implement the student voice in the SFCC Professional Development Day and Strategic Planning Day. We had about 45 students total, and lots of repeated topics I thought were popping up, such as food insecurities, housing for students, and technology upgrades, and school upgrades as well. October 26th was the SFCC Foundation Annual Scholarship Luncheon, where student government members, freedom ambassadors, student ambassadors, and OFD staff helped set up, serve, and clean up. Student ambassadors Manny Chavez and Marcos Rivera, as well as students Tintwani Kiegzelberger, I probably butchered her name, my apologies, and Aaron Price, along with myself, were the student speakers for the event, and we had 125 attendees in total. Halloween is tomorrow. We're expecting about 3,500 people to attend. Student government, student ambassadors, freedom ambassadors, and OSD staff have dedicated a lot of time to make this event a success, and events will include office decorating contest, a kids campus parade, a costume contest, which I'm honored to be a judge for, I'm excited, safe trick-or-treat, where tables you can give out candy departments, a haunted house, which is $4, cash only, a cookie walk, kids carnival, dancing, and DWI awareness. November 15th, 16th, and 17th, student government is attending the ASGA conference in Los Angeles, California. I'm so excited.
If it doesn't burn down.
Yes. We're excited to see what other student governments are doing. We're excited to network with new people in new places, and we want to come back with new connections. Our goal for this trip is to bring at least one thing back from ASGA and implement it into SFCC. November 15th, student ambassadors and freedom ambassadors will be attending the La Cosecha International Conference at the Hispanic Cultural Center. And the student ambassadors and freedom ambassadors will be presenting a best practices model, which is a leadership pipeline model that is being developed and worked on by Office of Student Development in partnership with Enlace. November 26th is our first, okay, let me start over on this one. This one I'm happy to announce, as this is our first ever time doing this, student government's first time doing this. On November 26th, student government will be handing out care packages, Thanksgiving care packages. Students that RSVP before November 15th can get a Thanksgiving care package that contains 1 Cornish hen, 1 box of mashed potatoes, 1 can of gravy, 1 can of corn, and 1 can of green beans or peas. In addition to the Thanksgiving care packages, SGA wanted to continue the theme of students helping students for this holiday season by offering $2 Thanksgiving meals from food services, which is an $8 value for the first 175 students that come see a student government officer in the campus center. Students must have their ID and cash only. And as President Rowley mentioned earlier, we are having a winter clothing drive contest through November 15th. Bins to collect donated clothing were placed in offices that entered the contest. Prizes are first place, $150, second place, $100, and third place is $50. And again, whoever collects the most clothes is the winner. And our new senators, we have Pilar Valardes Ramirez, who is the senator for the master's program. And as we're aligning with best practices, we really want to collectively collaborate with the deans and appointing the senators for their school. So as we're a new team, I know the team is probably unfamiliar with a lot of staff and faculty. And so what we're going to do is we're going to start inviting the deans into our meetings so the deans can see how the governing group of students works. So that way we can start, or they can see what area needs focus. And, you know, the deans are in their schools all day, every day, and they do see the students in their schools. So I think if we collaborate on this and if we work together, I know we can make it as student government unstoppable. And that is it on my end. I'll stand for any questions.
Good job.
Thank you.
Nice report.
Can I have a quick question about the haunted house? Did we find another location for it?
No, it's still in the Hemis rooms.
Oh, very good.
Still in the Hemis rooms. And, oh, the kids' carnival is going to be in the boardroom.
Ah.
Oh, downstairs. There we go.
All right. I knew we had displaced something by having our meeting. I just wanted to make sure that it was still all systems go.
Yes.
On an important community event.
Yes. And I know I had mentioned earlier the Student of the Month And that's also turning into an actual thing as well. We're doing Student of the Month award with the help of President Rowley, and we'll go into it later on in detail. But I would like to say thank you for your help in getting our parking spot for the Student of the Month award. So thank you.
Okay. All right. Can we go on to approval of the consent agenda? The minutes of September 25th, work session and regular meeting. Yeah. Oh, okay, so we can still, okay. Do you want to read the regular meeting? You're just gonna abstain. You want to abstain on the regular meeting? All right, we'll remove the regular meeting. And the second reading, no policies. Okay, can we have a motion to approve the consent agenda, which includes only the work session of September 25th?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we'll vote on the regular meeting of September 25th. Can I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Why is this taking so long?
I was trying to give some of my colleagues the opportunity to join the ranks.
Me too.
All those in favor, aye.
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 Abstain.
Abstain, okay.
One abstention.
One abstain. All right, now we're on to the financials. Which we did discuss at length in the work session.
Yes, Madam Chair, board members, President Rowley. We did meet with the Financial Review Committee on Monday to review these, and we talked about them a little bit earlier. But as a summary, what we have at the end of September, we have a total bank balance in our operating account of $8 million, and that's about a $2.9 million improvement from the prior year. So we're staying at about that $3 million number in cash improvement. Tuition and fees down 4%, and they've decreased by about $150,000 and total out to be $3.7 million. Local mill levy appropriations revenue is up $33,000, so not a lot yet. We get our large infusions in December and January, as well as at the end of the fiscal year. State appropriations revenue is $3 million, and that's increased about 14% with new funding from the legislature. Total ING revenues were up. When you look at all categories, they're up $240,000, and that's 4% compared to last year. On the expense side, expenses were up by $615,000, and that's 8%. And a large portion of that is due to a compensation increase, as we had increased that budget, compensation budgets for this fiscal year. And if you look at supplies, expense, equipment, utilities, those expenses are up by 5% and total out to be $1.8 million, up 83 to the prior year. Our public service, as I mentioned in our earlier meeting, our cash balances are on track to meet our targeted goal of having right around $7.8 million approximately in cash reserves by the end of this fiscal year, June 30th, FY20. So we made a lot of progress there. And I think that, this year and last year, we were out of that valley of death situation that we talked about for several years. And so that's really good for the financial position of the college. The public service fund is looking good. We're waiting on a billing and a signed agreement with one of our partners at the HEC. But in total, we have about $125,000 in net gain in public service. Together in our auxiliaries with food service in the bookstore, we have $38,000 in net gain there. And our receivables are relatively low compared to other times in the year. So we have our receivables under control. And so with that, I can stand for any questions you might have.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I just want to say how pleased I am that Nick went over with us the progress that we're making towards having cash reserves at the college that cover 3 pay periods for us, which is good and solid financial policy. And I'm so happy that we're in a place that we're going to see that soon happen for the college.
Thank you for saying that.
Madam Chair, I had asked Nick a question earlier, but I thought it might be useful for us all to be aware about since the revenues for the city, collection for the city appear to be late this year, whether that was going to give us some problem in making payroll or not.
There will be, Madam Chair, Member Romero, we will not see any difficulty through that because of that cash balance that we've been able to accumulate. However, you know, it is better for cash flow purposes to receive that money ahead of time. But yeah, with the recent changes in elections law, it looks like we won't get that till January or so. We normally start to receive a large chunk of that in December. And it's just really important to always monitor that because, you know, over 50% of our entire ING budget comes from local mill levy operational funds. So it's a huge part of our college's financing. So.
Thank you.
And we're grateful to the taxpayers for that.
Very much so.
Okay, any other questions?
Madam Chair, I move approval of the financials for September 2019.
Second.
Martha seconds. And all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, our first quarter financial to HED, our little perfunctory form.
Yes. Madam Chair, you all are very familiar with this form. It's required by HED to have a governing board approve it. And we're answering no to all of the questions that are asked. If you answer yes, that would signal a particular risk to the department, and so they would want to look into that a little bit more. But with this form, our finances are well put together, so nothing to report.
Right. Okay, can we have a motion to approve that?
Move approval.
Second.
Any other discussion? All those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Okay, thank you. Now our new certificate degree program.
Chair Siegel, board members, President Rowley. We are here, Jenny and I, to present the certificate in massage therapy. This is a new certificate for Sfcc. We're hoping to start offering classes in the fall of 2020.
Is there any way that ever turns into an associate degree?
Madam Chair, members of the board, that's a very good question that I just and I had a discussion with Uta, our chair, today. And yes, our hope is that once we get the certificate through, that we will then nest it into an associate degree. And right now we're looking at, with what we have currently, either exercise science or allied health, where it might fit better. So we definitely want to do that.
And then that would enable all those credits from the certificate to apply to
That's right.
whatever that associate degree would be. Right.
And what would be the difference in terms of a practitioner, a massage therapist that had a certificate versus an AA degree?
I actually don't know that it makes a difference. I'll have to ask Uta. I mean, because we had schools of massage therapy, which just led to the certificate, and there's such a demand, I would think that right now there probably for our market would not be a difference, but it potentially could make a difference if they were going to move into a different role at their place of practice. A lot of times, if they're going to move up into management, that degree might really make them more competitive, or could be a stepping stone to a bachelor's degree.
Right.
So for the purposes of the licensing board, the massage therapy licensing board, the criteria and the hours that we have within the certificate are adequate for that license. So an associate degree would just be really more for the person who, as you're saying, might want to do something else too, or go further.
That's correct.
And Madam Chair, so is the certificate independent of the licensing process?
You have to, Member Romero, you have to actually, you have to be an accredited program in order to sit for licensure.
Okay.
And in order to be an accredited program, there are the number of hours, and there's you have to follow it's kind of like a circle. You have to follow the accreditation process to become accredited. So yes, and we, you missed the discussion earlier, I believe, but we actually reached out to UNM Taos that has had a program for 10 years. And so in addition to that, UTA actually reached out to the Massage Therapy Board for New Mexico. And so we have all the regulations, and we're learning best practices from UNM Taos.
Thank you.
Jack?
Just to add, regarding our discussion during the work session, I brought up, and also the chair brought up, what we felt was the value of looking into the physical training and occupational training, neither of which seems to have the necessary educational capabilities here in our area. Understanding that it requires more upfront funding to hire the required and properly educated people to do that. But I think, and I think there was agreement during the work session that this was something that the staff would look at, because if there's a market and a need, that's something that we want to know about and something that we want to address. So.
Member Sullivan, Madam Chair, members of the board, absolutely. We will be looking into doing 2 needs assessments this fall for both physical therapy assistant and occupational therapy assistant.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Just a quick comment. I just want to say thank you to you all for going out and doing market research in our community and understanding better what the local need was in terms of training for massage therapists, visiting with businesses and understanding that there was a need out there to do it. I think that's what community colleges, what our role is, right? That we do that proactive outreach to the community and figure out what jobs we need training for locally. And so thank you for that innovation and that going that extra mile to do research and figure out what our community needed and coming up with a solution for it. It's great to see.
Member Keith, Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for that. And I'll pass that on to Uta Jensen-Kerr, my chair, who really just took the lead, followed our template of the needs assessment, and I think she was overwhelmed by the reception that she got from the community. So it was really rewarding, and I think she just was really excited to be able to meet this need.
Well, and as we know, healthcare is where we have great potential for expanding enrollment, as we can bring on programs that teach providers that we really need out in the community. So any others of those that you all think of we should be working Okay, thank you. Oh, we have to vote.
We do.
No.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah, to approve this new degree program,
I don't think so.
certificate or degree. It's in the action item.
Oh, it's an action item.
So,
I so move.
okay, is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we've already done the automotive, the annual report, strategic plan, annual update. Greetings.
Madam Chair, members of the board, President Rowley. I'm here to present the annual strategic plan report for 2018-2019. As you may recall, this was a 2-year extension of our previous 5-year plan. And we had another really great year. We're getting better and better at implementing our strategic plan. This year we had 19 of our 26 KPIs that either met or exceeded their targets for the year, and that's with one more year to go on many of the targets. So very pleased with the performance of the KPIs. And I'm happy to give a full report, although due to the late hour, I'm thinking maybe I should just stand for questions.
Good idea.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
At short-term goal 1.1, in the meta majors, which I feel is really our pathway to student success, quite frankly, in the future. You mentioned under your successes that your course scheduling software has been upgraded, and the room optimization tool, which was, I assume, part of the scheduling issue that we've discussed in the past, is being piloted. So what does that mean? Have you started? Does it work? What does piloted mean? How's it going?
Piloted means it's actually still being refined. It's been a really complicated process of, you have to build it, you have to build the system before it will function properly. And so they've actually tested it a number of times and gone back to make adjustments to make sure that it's functioning correctly. It's almost ready to employ. They want to actually try it again on this current schedule that's just been released to see how it matches up with what was done manually. And again, make any adjustments they might need to make. And so I'm expecting that it will be fully utilized for the next scheduling process.
And is this a job of OPI, or who does this?
This is actually, I have been co-leading that team with Mason Kovac from OIT, and that's actually been Mason's piece of the scheduling process, is the software piece, and he's been working with Teresa Roybal, the Director of Academic Resources, to really work out the bugs in the system. Moving forward, just so you're aware, Vice Chair Sullivan, we will have some funding through the Title V grant that will supplement the work that we're doing with the scheduling software and will allow us to expand the capability of the software and hopefully even have better results.
Okay. Whenever I hear the word software, I say, oh no, not that again. Okay. In the next bullet down, you talk about you've got a new electronic catalog and improved course scheduling, and updates to advising are expected. Can you very briefly tell me what updates to the advising you're thinking about or you're accomplishing?
That is through the work that Colleen Lynch is doing with the pathways and meta majors. Because there will be actually 7 meta majors. At the point that I submitted this, there were 8. We've actually scaled back to 7. But because we are creating those pathways, there'll need to be a new process for advising students as they work through those pathways. And so Colleen is working very closely with advising on developing the approach that they'll use to advise students through the 7 meta majors.
And is this a part of the software that we talked about earlier in the meeting?
No, this is
A different software?
No, this is not related.
Oh, it's not software?
It's not software.
Okay.
It's an advising plan that will be developed.
It's real human stuff.
And
Okay.
will be conducted by humans.
All right, conducted by, oh, this is good. I like this. Thank you for that. Under challenges, you mentioned a problem of faculty bandwidth. And, you know, I kind of vision people doing short-wave operation or something, you know, with radios. What does that mean?
It's the ability to take on a number of tasks. We're always very conscientious with strategic planning about staying focused on a small number of projects so that we can carry them through successfully. And the more projects that you add, the less likely you will be successful. In this case, there were a number of things happening that involved faculty that were out of the control of any of us at this institution, things that were required by the state that they were having to put a great deal of time into, like Common Course numbering and gen ed studies, and that took away the time that they were able to focus on meta majors.
Okay, understand. And then finally, under this category, could you explain to me what this means? Under challenges, and focusing on challenges, not to be critical, but simply because, you know, quite rightfully, you've indicated your successes as well as your challenges. You say currently, no good source of information on what classes students need to graduate, though the implementation of degree works is intended to help with this, and we learned earlier that we haven't implemented degree works. So is this saying that we really don't have a system that helps tell students what classes they need to graduate?
Vice Chair Sullivan, this does relate directly to the conversation that happened earlier about the petition to graduate, that we don't have a good system for tracking each student and where they are and what they need and in order to complete, and the degree works is intended to do that.
So the part of the challenge is that we do know what students need to graduate, but every student's individualized. So this is where this degree work software would be helpful, because we could automate that process and students could then look at it for themselves, where there might be and what other classes they need to take. So without that kind of software in place, the advisors will have to individually look at all 5,400 students, student records, what classes they took, and then that would take away from our other more important work of working closely with students to try to help them to graduate. And so this is why with the Title V grant that we just received, we're hoping to implement some sort of software that makes those processes more transparent and automated so that we could really focus on the relationship and advising that's really needed. Is that fair?
And this applies at the end of their degree period, or when does this software, when is it used?
So in this kind of software, you could just say, my plan is to graduate with this particular degree, and then say, here's a list of courses you got to take. With the scheduling, then we could say, these are the classes you got to take at a different time period so that you could graduate on time and such. So the whole purpose of this the degree works kind of software is to try to reduce some of the redundant coursework the students take sometimes that they don't really need to graduate. That happens sometimes from self-advising, and also to improve our ability to reach more students across the campus so that they could graduate on time and we are actually conscious of their successes.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had on that goal. Thank
Madam
you.
Chair? Yes. At what point do we learn the titles of, for example, you say 8 meta majors have been drafted. So at what point do we know what those meta majors are? Similarly, when you get down to goal 2.3, there are 8 complete certificate programs and 2 evening certificate programs. It would be helpful to know what the names of those are, just for information for us. And I don't know if that's something that somebody else does, or if that's something that should be included in the, or could be included in this report. I'm just wondering how we do that.
Yes, Member Romero, that those could definitely be included in the report, or we can share that information at any point that, that you'd want, but I will take note of that for the future.
Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Questions? Yes.
Under short-term goal 1.3, to address student wellness and non-academic barriers to student success, under your successes, you indicate develop strategies for working with the community to address the highest priority needs. And my question is, what strategies did you come up with? Again, briefly.
Vice Chair Sullivan, there was a survey that was conducted last year. I believe those results were presented to the governing board several months ago, that identified what our students were saying their highest non-academic barriers were to completion. And the strategies for addressing those are working with particular agencies, often nonprofit agencies within the community, in order to have a relationship where they can come to campus and offer workshops, or you have days, regular days when they're available to consult with students. And so we're not only offering our own services, but we're complementing that with services that come from the community. So this is what we're striving to do. We don't have that set up yet. We've actually just recently met with President Rowley about trying to find a structure and a location to offer those services. So we're hoping to actually begin to offer some of those services hopefully within the spring semester.
Okay, you listed it as a success, and so I was wondering what we were doing. But what you're saying is that it's about to happen.
Yes.
All right, thank you. I had, okay, so much for degree work software. Under short-term goals, ensure that student learning outcomes are actively assessed. You have a professional, you've had trainings during convocations and during the professional development day to assist faculty with collecting and using assessment data. And my question is then, what happens to that data? Where does it go? Who looks at it? Who does something with it?
So the assessment committee actually has a group of faculty members who are designated as a lead to work within the individual school area. So there's a lead working with individual faculty members relating to the data that's being collected, and then from that data being collected, that's taken back to the lead and chair members so that we could actually improve instruction. So we're finding out that students might be not learning as well in certain particular learning outcomes, and then that data is taken back to the department and studied and try to say, okay, this strategy didn't work, maybe we should change it this way. And so there's an improvement made on the instruction side.
So the faculty assessments go to you, and then you go back and try to work with the faculty to
it's not so much assessments coming to us. We do organize that process, but it's really a faculty-centered process. Where the
okay, so it stays there, and with the deans and so forth, they say, here's where we have problems, and here's how we want to rectify it.
Jill Carlson from OP is actively involved in that process, so she's helping, she's sharing her expertise to work with co-chairs and faculty members to help with that process. But, you know, in some cases, what we have received is requests for additional funding to send some adjunct members to conferences so they can understand how to improve the instruction and collection of assessment data, which we do. So, you know, it's a case by case about what do they need to make sure that we could actually ensure that the students have a high quality of learning experience.
I'm always concerned with collecting data and then not doing anything with it.
I agree completely. Yeah, and there's nothing worse than collecting data for the data's sake.
Okay, great. On your goal 1.6 to increase degrees and certificates awarded, you say that although the combined number of certificates and degrees rose, the degree portion of this KPI wasn't met. And that's, as I read, because you've got more certificates than you have associate degrees. And in fact, you indicate that the number of degrees fell to its lowest level in 6 years, which is kind of shocking. What are your thoughts on that? What do we do? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? 6 years, I mean, we're very excited about increases in enrollment and increases in graduation rates and so forth, but if our degrees are falling to the lowest level in 6 years, somehow I'm not getting that connection.
So I think this is one of the reasons why we're looking at the meta majors, to make sure that students are taking classes in a particular sequential way so they could graduate on time. There's other number of items that we need to think about, partially the strength of the economy. So when that happens, there's more demand for short-term certificates because people could then go out there and work. So there's a combination of the economy, combination of some of the strategies that we need to continue to work on, and then thinking about what can we do to make sure the students could continue to graduate without when there's like a non-academic barriers in place. So I think a lot of the things in the strategic plan actually is designed, like by intention, by design, is sort of interweaving, so we could try to improve that process. Unfortunately, this year, this previous year, we weren't successful, so we need to sort of relook at our existing strategies and think, what can we do in the short term?
And also, thank you, and also in that same goal about increasing the certificates, you addressed issues with the CAPP reports, which is curriculum advising and program planning. And so my question on that success was, what was the problem with it?
Vice Chair Sullivan, it was an accuracy problem that I believe has been addressed.
Accuracy meaning the numbers weren't adding up right, or what?
Members Sullivan, members of the board, it wasn't just numbers. There were some issues or concerns with course alignment. There were a number of changes this year in general with general education courses, and so we're just cleaning that part up for our students at this time as well. We're done with all of the certificates. This was recoding every program. So we just finished our certificates, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and we're in the middle of almost finishing all of our associate degrees.
So these CAP reports are done by your staff, by the advising staff?
Yes.
Okay, I understand. Thank you. Under successes on Goal 2.1, strengthening community workforce partnerships, under successes, I'm on page F8, which sounds like an airplane. You talk about documenting the existing advisory committees, and this is something that's had me scratching my head in the past, and we have talked about it. How many advisory committees do we have?
8,
I think last time we heard, was it like 3 or 4 or something like that? Is it more than that? Are you talking about internal advisory committees or external?
Yes, to clarify, Vice Chair Sullivan, we're talking about advisory committees for each of the workforce programs that we offer that would bring external members in to consult with internal faculty.
And that's required by Workforce Solutions, right, and some of the other.
Required by accreditation, and it's also best practices because then these advisory committees could say, well, our industry is changing. These things are no longer relevant. These are the kind of things that's changing. So can you make sure you include this in your curriculum? So it's a really important process of ensuring that we have a high quality of education for our students.
Can you give me an example of a few of them? What are they?
There's a lot of health, like in the healthcare area. There's
healthcare.
Healthcare, trades, that kind of areas. Usually have automotive, plumbing, nursing.
I know about the automotive one, but okay. So, and did they meet regularly, once a year or once a?
There's a policy on how often they're supposed to meet. I believe they're supposed to meet once a semester. Yeah.
Twice a year? Okay. All right. Thank you. Then under short-term goal 2.2, increase the percent of high school graduates who attend our college. One of our targets, you indicate that 168 of 331 students who enrolled in the college came to Sfcc, or 51%, which is, a great number. And my question there was, did they come as credit students, or is this the total number of high school students that came in to the college?
These are the credit students.
These are the credit students.
From graduating through Santa Fe Public Schools to Santa Fe Community College.
And this was in the past year?
And another thing to keep in mind, and this has been one of the community goals through our Birth to Career collaborative with Santa Fe Community Foundation, there's 2 goals they've asked us to focus on. Increasing the number of students who graduate from high school and come to SFCC has been one of them. And so we've been working not just within the college, but Marcos and other members, NPR and other members of the community and SFCC staff and faculty members have been working actively to try to address that.
Well, this is a good number, but is this saying that there were 331 students last year in Santa Fe in all the schools who enrolled in college? It seems a fairly low number. Is that all?
Yes, and that's part of the challenge is
Enrolled in our college.
No.
In all colleges?
In all colleges is what they're saying.
How do we even know that?
Well, because we have a list of students who graduate from Santa Fe Public Schools, we have a data sharing agreement. What we do then is we track with the National Student Clearinghouse and see where they go.
So that's wow. I mean, that's great that you can get that KPI target.
Part of the challenge that we need to think about as a community is that there seems to be a racial divide about the people who go to college and people who don't go to college. And the students who don't go to college tend to be students of color. And so I think this is something we need to continue to focus on as an institution.
That was just a surprising number.
Madam Chair, I'd like to go back to 2.1, if I may. So I have 2 questions. One is, how are the advisory committees being used in the strategic planning process, or are they?
Board Member Romero, if I could ask the 20 to 25 strategic planning process, the next strategic planning process?
Or the next year?
Yes. Our hope is to reach out to the members of the advisory committees as a part of our community outreach to make sure that we're getting input from our partners into the next strategic plan. We haven't done that yet, but that should happen within this next academic year.
I encourage you to really look at that seriously. When I was chairing the Presidential Search Committee, I tried very hard to get advisory committee members. I was never able to get a single one. I was never even able to get the names of who was on the advisory committees. I understand that they've been redone, so I'm pleased that maybe they'll be a little bit easier to identify now. But that's something that we really need their input. And we need to be able to identify them and reach out to them.
And so this KPI is really designed to make sure that we're documenting the members of each of the committees when they're meeting, keeping their minutes, and so that definitely will help with the next strategic planning process and getting there.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, on Goal 2.3, which discusses weekend and evening and online programs, and often we seem to think of the online programs as the sole savior to whatever our problems are. We'll do everything online. And I just found it interesting that you said under challenges that that a couple of the problems are that online courses need 24/7 technical support, which is difficult and expensive to do, and that also evening classes create a need for evening tutoring services, which is always hard to find, and that at times they're canceled for lack of enrollment. So that was just very informative to me that the online solution is not always the answer to cancer. We try to do it, and we do it, but it ain't easy. So.
And there's additional work that we need to do to make sure that we're supporting our students as well as we can.
Yeah. So right on with that, but good luck. I mean, that's a lot of work. I think, Madam Chair, no, I've got one more question. No, I have 2. I'm going to go up to goal 4.2, so I'm not sure if Member Romero has some before that.
I don't have any more.
Okay. Or anyone else?
No, mine are on 5.
You're on 5? Okay, I'll stop at 5. Under 4.2, process map and student experience, your successes included developed a project charter and team. Could you explain what a project charter is and what that means?
Vice Chair Sullivan, we approached this the way that many OIT projects are approached, with a formal project charter, which is a written document that lays out all the members of the campus that will be involved in the project. It lays out very clearly what we expect the outcomes to be and what possible challenges might be along the way. We decided to take that approach, which is a lot more, I guess, a lot more stringent than what we normally do with our strategic planning processes, partly because this involved a lot of members from OIT and it's their way of operating, but also because this was a project that was going to involve so many people from across campus that we just wanted to have it spelled out very clearly. And so we created that written charter that was then signed by Dr. Cervantes, as well as the other lead members of that project.
Sounds like a good idea. Thank you. Okay, I have some things on goal 5, but I'll yield to the chair.
So on goal 5, these are the foster social responsibility. So are these goals ones that continue? Because, I mean, improving the sense of belonging, that's not something we're just going to get and then it's done. It's like going to happen every single year. So we do new KPIs, or
So,
how does that work?
As you all recall, some of the KPIs had to be put on hold for the time being as we were preparing for the accreditation visits. One of those, that particular goal was put on hold for this particular year because we needed to focus on other accreditation-related items. Because, as Julie have said earlier, we believe in doing few things well rather than trying to do it all and not being successful in any of it. And so we had to make a difficult decision at the time and said, okay, we need to focus on these other accreditation items first. So that for this current strategic planning cycle is on hold.
So all of these are on hold?
Not all, no.
No, 5.1, sense of belonging, and 5.2, close the achievement gap, are the two within goal 5 that are that were put on hold because of accreditation issues.
So when are they going to emerge again?
Well, because we're creating the next 5-year plan, I guess the question is whether they will rise to the level to be incorporated into that next 5-year plan.
So why would why would accreditation have caused those to be put on hold?
It's about the lead's capacity. So who's going to lead that effort? And in terms of the senior level leadership, we wanted to make sure there's the person who's in charge of that particular goals are not having to do multiple things. We have found that it increases our chance of success when the leads are not leading too many areas simultaneously.
But as I understand the accreditation process, these are two really important goals for accreditation, for being accredited.
Yes, so there's a related items to this particular goal with a different accreditation items that are currently on their place. So we do a lot of different things. We just need to document those things. It's a little bit of different strategy for this current year.
Such as, can you give me an example?
So the cultural.
She's gone.
No, not the culture pair. Yeah, thank you. No. Yeah, so we replaced it with demonstrating how Sfcc provides education that recognizes human and cultural diversity. I'm sorry. So we have replaced that goal with a goal that relates to criteria for accreditation 3B, which is demonstrating how Sfcc provides education that recognizes human and cultural diversity. And so one of the things the accreditor wants us to do is demonstrate that we do these things. And so we wanted to gather the evidence so when they come and ask us, how do you do these things, we have something to show them.
But that doesn't have anything to do with improving the sense of belonging among.
There's no direct, yes, I agree. And that's something we need to think about for the next strategic plan cycle.
And that, I mean, this piece is all about changing the culture or improving the culture here to be more student focused and centered and friendly and.
Yes, I agree. And I think that's one of the things that are reflected in other strategic plan not so explicitly, but for example, one of the things we're trying to do through the meta major and advising and improvement is relating to that. One of the things we've also recently done is making sure that we actually do an outreach for students who've missed classes. So we do try to do it in different ways. It's not necessarily in the strategic plan the way it used to be because of a resource focus issue.
How about N5.2? So generally,
Achievement gap.
it's
Thought
the
that was one of our big things.
serving the underserved populations, right?
And it's gone down from 52 to 45.
Yep.
It is definitely something we need to look at for the next strategic plan. Once again, we had to make some strategic resource allocation decisions to increase our success chance in items relating to the strategic.
So why would we put it on hold?
Because of the resource constraints we have in that particular area. In terms of the leads capacity, we needed to make sure that there are other items within the strategic plan were successful that directly relates to our accreditation items. So,
So once the accreditation is over in February or
yes,
whenever it's, then we can go back to working on the things
I would really hope that we actually go back to that, especially with this current 20 to 25 strategic planning cycle.
Madam Chair, as a Hispanic serving institution and the number of underserved students that we have, I really take exception to putting that on hold in any way.
Unless it's addressed somewhere else in another way.
I think it is being addressed in other ways in terms of changing how we approach it. One of the things to keep in mind is our graduation rate and retention rate. If you look at it based on Hispanic student success rate, Hispanic students are being as successful as other students within our institution. Where we need to continue to work on is particularly students of color who are male. And that's a particular challenge that we have to really address.
Right. Okay.
Madam Chair?
Yep.
My last question and comment is on the conclusion, your conclusion on page F13. And you indicate that after receiving feedback from AQIP, it was determined that several key accreditation issues need to be addressed. And of course, it's looking us in the nose right now. As a result, adjustments were made to the strategic plan to reflect and strengthen certain short-term high-priority initiatives. And these 6 bullets, I think, are the real nut of the whole thing. Assessing essential skills outcomes, ensuring syllabi consistency, strengthening workforce partnerships through advisory committees, which we've just discussed, ensuring faculty credential compliance, enhancing professional development, and conducting faculty performance evaluations. Wow, those 3 are, if you can deal and solve and successfully those 6, I think that's wonderful. I mean, I think you've really boiled it down to what we're about here. One sub-question there was under ensuring faculty credential compliance. Where are our faculty credentials listed now? I mean, where do you find them?
So the faculty credential compliance isn't really listed on our website, like which faculty has what credentials. Rather, the accreditors are interested in making sure that our faculty members have appropriate credential to teach classes at an appropriate level.
It's in the personnel file, right?
Yes, so right now we have transitioned from a paper-based system to an electronic-based system so that things could be found easily. And so that is our current plan.
So can the accreditation people look at these personnel files?
Yes,
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
and that is their expectation.
They can do that.
When they come here, they will be asking for a sample of our faculty credentials, and they will be making sure that we actually have the documentation in place.
But right now, it's all paper files.
That is correct. And so we've just did one of the items, we have just did our first or second test cases to make sure that the electronic process is working.
Well, again, just to repeat myself, when I saw those 3, after these 10 pages or 11 of the report, I said, you know, that's it. That's what we're about here.
But that's the mechanics of it all.
Yeah,
Then how does that help students graduate? How does that help people feel involved? How does that close the achievement gap? I mean, those are the...
Right.
Those are like the structure that needs to be in place.
But I think what they're saying here is that this is where our others, I won't say are in great shape, but this is where we're currently need more work.
And there's a seventh one to that one, which is...
Oh, yeah, on the next page. I'm sorry.
Which
Yeah.
is the thing about putting the first two on hold.
Right. Demonstrating how SFCC provides education and recognizes human and cultural diversity. I forgot that on the next page. There's the last one.
Those are the 7 issues that were identified after we submitted our systems portfolio, and we chose to put them through the same process that we do the strategic plan KPIs, and actually put together an action plan with a lead and a sponsor, and have them go through the check-in process that we go through with the strategic plan in order to make sure that we had what we needed to be in place by the site visit in February, that was going to be in place. So that was the thinking on that.
Okay, any other questions?
Thank you.
All right.
I'm sorry,
Thank you.
one last item.
Okay, yeah.
I just want to recognize Julie's leadership in organizing the most recent strategic planning retreat. There was a huge number of students, as I remember many of the board members mentioned at one of the board member meetings about how important it is to have students in front and center. I want to thank, of course, Ian and his leadership. Students' voices were loud and clear, and it was very in front and center. So thank you, Julie, for organizing that and showing leadership in that area. And thank you, Ian, for all the students who came and participated in the process.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. That's great
Thank you.
news. And thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. All right, we have a vote on the board financial oversight policy. Right?
Right.
Are you want to come up, Laura?
I thought we did that.
And Madam Chair, just as a prelude to this one, as the board knows, the member Gamble and I are on the
Still working on those policies.
still working on those policies. You know, you give a guy a job to do, and he just drags it out. So we talked about some minor changes at our work session earlier, and we discussed them, and they're in the book. With one addition, which Laura or Nick can explain, and so the question I just want to clarify with the board is, does the board feel we need to go through first reading and second reading on this? Okay, the chair says no. Okay, everybody says no.
I think we should vote.
Okay, that takes care of that.
Can we have
So,
a motion?
well,
Do you want to say anything?
I think
Just a couple things.
just share the one change from what's in the book.
The big change really is we wanted to make it a little bit more clear on when the board could potentially change tuition and fees during a year. During an academic year, we wanted to make sure that that would only be done under an emergency type of situation. So, you know, there's that part of it. And the other, kind of important change was related to architectural services on construction projects. What we changed was basically that a construction project that is estimated, and that's the key word, estimated to be $200,000 or more, we would bring those architectural services contracts to the board for approval, because they can get a little complicated depending on how you source those architects. It's not all just the same thing always. Right now, in particular with the automotive center, we're doing a construction manager at risk, which is different than the design build and that sort of thing. So
Thought it was design build with that piece added.
I think
Construction manager at risk.
No, it's not design build because our designer is a different firm.
Oh, okay.
Designer is a different, architect is a different firm.
so. That's basically it. Did I get everything?
The 200,000
Yeah.
for 4-year contract.
So, Madam Chair, if there's not any other questions from the board, I'd move for approval.
A second.
Any other questions?
Just one minor technical I wanted to bring up on the bottom of page 4. I think we have a typo in that very last sentence, actually next to the last sentence on number 3, just tuition. I don't know if that got caught from the version that we have in our books. When a financial emergency is declared by the board, tuition and fees.
Oh, yeah, the first line is spelled wrong.
Yeah, tuition is.
Holy mackerel. You guys.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you all. Okay, discussion of the joint meeting with the foundation. We had that discussion in the work session, discussion of legislative funding. We had that discussion in the work session. But we have a discussion regarding the SGA honoring a student of the month. Ann, do you want to tell us?
Yes.
Idea?
Yeah. So as I came into this new role, I wanted to implement the Students Helping Students message to students. So what better way implementing that message than a student nominating a student for a Student of the Month award? So as we were brainstorming, we were coming up with several ideas on how we can tackle this. So we came up with the Student of the Month would be introduced to the governing board, brought to the governing board, and will tell you why they are the Student of the Month. And since it is on, student government, we wanted to relate the award based on acts that students do of integrity, leadership, and service. And again, that brings it all back to student government. It's a big statement. It's a big, it's in our emblem, So we wanted to tie it back, and they also will get recognition from student government and also a Starbucks gift card. They will be featured in the Student Spotlight section of my Sfcc, and they will be on the monitors around campus. And also, they will receive a parking spot. That I couldn't help Dr. Rowley and Henry and everybody. So that's exciting. So how this will work is it's kind of the same concept as the Kindness is Key award, where there will be boxes, student government boxes, placed around campus in different departments, accessible for students, as well as a form aside the box. There you can write the nominated student's name, the student's contact information, school, email, phone number, and a description of what that student did that was so honorable, that meant or that demonstrated integrity, leadership, and service. And at the bottom, there will be a little section for the student's printed name, student signature of the person who is nominating that student, but to make sure that students aren't nominating themselves for the perks or for the parking spot or anything like that. They have to get it signed by a staff member to ensure that, they are nominating a real student. So with that, bringing them to the board, how can student government bring the Student of the Month to present to the governing board?
Let me just ask you a question.
Yes.
Have you all created criteria? Because say you get a bunch of nominees.
Yes.
Criteria to figure out how you decide who.
Yeah.
gets it this month.
If we get a bunch of nominees, the student government is going to look at that, see, who did what in what act, and then we'll narrow it down. but also we wanted to tie in something to do, if there was a lot of nominations, something to do with GPA, current GPA at the moment. So we still need to talk to the registrar, to see if that is doable. I don't know if it's something with FERPA, violations, stuff like that. But yeah.
So other than GPA, you're not talking about the set criteria, but you would develop those individually depending on who was nominated every month?
Yeah, exactly. What I really wanted this award to entail was honorable acts that students do to help students. I've noticed a lot, as a student here on campus, students do things for other students every day, and I'm out there seeing them. The other day, a woman right here, she dropped all of her papers, and a student walking out of his way to class helped her pick them up, and she was an elderly woman. So, she couldn't bend down, and he went out of her way to help her, and I watched, and that was amazing, and it really touches my heart. So I really wanted to do something to give back to those students that really do help students succeed and thrive and help each other in college.
Well, were you thinking, Madam President, doing it like by the WOW-gram and
Yes,
just have the...
That was kind of my idea when Ian and I had discussed this, and he went back to his group and got some more details about what part of the award would be, and then also more criteria. And I mentioned to Henry that we were talking about this, and next thing I knew, there's a picture of a placard in this, they jumped on it right away. So it's ready to go when Ian's ready to.
It's ready to go, and I know the whole purpose of this, I wanted to bring them to the governing board so you can hear from students, because I know there's not a lot of student participation in the meetings.
And we would like them to come.
Yeah, and we have some wonderful students. We have great clubs that are doing great things. And I want to bring them to the governing board so you all can hear from them. So with that being said, I
think it's a great idea.
I think, yeah.
So let me play devil's advocate. What are the cons to doing that?
The cons I see that I've thought about, students nominating themselves or nominating friends, I don't think it will create conflict between students. I don't think that at all. I really just want this to be an award to honor students.
And would it be better, or do students think it would be better to recognize them at our work session? We have problems with the late sessions of, even with the WOW-gram and so forth, of the students showing up. So that may be something to think about during our work session. Is generally 3 to 5. Would that be easier for a student to be recognized at that time? I mean, the recognition doesn't take very long, and
right. I definitely do think that time frame is better for a student's schedule. Although I would like to give them the opportunity to present here at the governing board meeting, just like the WOW and the Pass It Forward.
Either one, I think it's fine. The disadvantage to the work session is that it's not videotaped.
Well,
and
it is.
No, we stopped it. But the board meeting is. So I guess
work session.
Think about it, and maybe each student would like to do it differently. I don't know. I would be open to either way, because what we want to do is recognize the student. And there's good attendance at the work sessions, and sometimes and there's less at the full board meetings. So
Thank you, Vice Chair Sullivan. Thank you.
Pick your poison.
Do you all think
it's a great idea, Ian?
Thank you. Thank you. Do you all how do you all see this? Do you see the student being brought to the work session, being presented at the work session? Perhaps if they're able to come to the board to the meeting as well, we can present them while after the WOW, after the Pass It Forward.
Board meeting after the WOW or before the WOW, whatever.
Does it matter?
is the place to do it. If they can't, then the work session becomes an opportunity to
Okay.
still recognize them.
We'd like to see them, so if they can't make it to the work session due to conflict of scheduling, then we'd love to see them at the work session.
And I would like to have them write a little statement if they're not able to come to the board. That way I can read it and, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks for initiating it.
Yeah, of course.
Thanks for thinking of those things. Okay, we know we have a joint board meeting on the 4th, and our regular board meeting is after that at 5:30. So, anybody want to say anything?
I just a quick, under board reports, discussions, and other business, I just want to call the college and say that earlier this week, the mayor hosted an event on agriculture development, and it was great to have, there were several panels of community members and entrepreneurs who are working on agriculture development within Santa Fe County, and Santa Fe Community College was a big part of that, of one of our students who has been through a program here and subsequently started a small business that was featured as a part of the conference of opportunities that we can take advantage of in sustainable agriculture here in our community and grow our economy, as well as our faculty that and staff from the Trades and Advanced Technology Center who came and participated as well and talked about opportunities of how we can work together to support the city's goal in economic development. So I just wanted to say thank you to the college for doing that and being a part of that. I think it's a really important part of the work that we do at Santa Fe Community College.
Great.
I
Anybody
think
else?
that the joint meeting will be here in the boardroom, I believe. Is that correct?
I think they're still working it out. Or
That's what,
is that what Deborah?
that's what she told me.
Okay.
The food's going to be outside and the meeting's going to be in here. Yeah.
Okay. All right, a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So seconded.
All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye.